Hey friends, hope you're good. We're in Madrid. Sun's come out. Let's see if we can have some conversations. Sven is unfortunately unwell, so he's not with me right now. Lisa's unwell, but out for a while. Andrew's back at the camper van with Alexander right now. And we've got Howard with us. I'm trying to upload a video of his just a minute ago. Hi Lisa. This is where we are. This is where we are.
Misunderstanding. Yeah.
Well, if you're live, I'll give up then, because I've been trying to go live for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah. You haven't got anyone in the stream yet, but you can leave it for me for a while. I'll handle it live.
There was no moon. There's all of us. All the same as NASA is lying all over the place. It's a NASA picture. When we go to NASA pictures. It's just official NASA picture.
Sure.
No?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I wanted to give you one of these before.
I've gone live now.
All right.
Yeah. Hi, do you want some information?
No.
Have you got any scientific proof that we live on a spinning ball? Experiments that we can do for ourselves? You guys speak English? I'm now live, and we're in Plaza Mayor, which is obviously 500 years old or something. Staggering murals on the wall. Beautiful murals.
Try to keep some flyers, so if you get Spanish.
Yeah. Oh, those are in Spanish.
Yeah.
Cool. Hi there. You look like you speak some English.
Yeah, I do.
Cool. My name's Dave. I'm just going around Europe telling people that we've been deceived about the nature of the world that we live in.
Okay.
What's your name?
Sorry?
Your name?
Rima,
Rima. Where are you from?
India.
India. Okay. You're on holiday or studying?
Holiday.
Okay. Cool. Well, we've been doing experiments over large bodies of water, and we find that water is always level. We know that just by our language. We say water level. We know we can see across the other side of a lake, no problem. We've never been able to see a large meniscus or bulge in bodies of water bigger than a teardrop or something like that, you know? So we all know that the Earth is apparently 70% water, something like that. So on that basis alone, Rima, we say that Earth must be a plain, like it must be like a puddle or a pool, a big lake, and in which we have all of our continents, around which we can sail with a central North Pole, perhaps. That's what we suggest. Have you heard of that before? Have you heard that theory?
Yeah, I have one.
Have you done any sort of, investigation into that?
I haven't really investigated into it.
Because we're all given the idea that we live on a spinning globe from a very young age. So none of us go and test that for ourselves. We just accept the science that says gravity, when an object is large enough, will start to pull things to a center mass. That there's no up or down. That everyone on a ball could feel like they were on the top of a ball. All of that sort of stuff doesn't really make sense in logic, but we get our logic robbed from us when we're that age.
But to some extent, it does make logic, right? Because how else do you fall from a place and come down? Like, how does that work?
Well, I mean, that we kind of accept. And on a flat Earth, obviously, if you lived on a tabletop Earth, you can understand how you could lift something off that Earth and it would fall down.
Yeah.
But in physics, we couldn't go underneath the table
Yeah.
and get things to attract to the underside of the table. And then not fall down or feel upside down, and they'd always be seeking that same down, that same direction of down. through the table into the floor, and through the floor to the below, or if it was water
we
through
have
the
never
water
really
to below.
tested that. Like through the floor below, we haven't tested that.
You know,
We've just relied on theories, basically.
Yeah, so if we had to drill a hole, say from here to the other side of the globe, let's just imagine it was Australia, and we were to fall through that hole, would we come out with our head on the ground, or would we be standing upright?
Standing upright.
And when would we flip, and would we feel us flipping to a different
I don't think you can go to the other side.
Yeah, I don't think we can go to the other side either. Through the earth, we've only dug 8 miles.
Yeah.
So we don't know anything about this mantle and inner core and outer core and the molten center that's spinning iron. And we find out that when we heat up iron to that extent, it loses all magnetic charge. So it can't be providing us with a magnetic protection from the solar winds and all that stuff that they teach us. So all of that about what's below our feet is theoretical. And then when you think about what's above our heads, well, we have to rely on government agencies like NASA to tell us what's out there, and astrophysicists who get degrees and they get funded if they can come up with great ideas based on data. They use data and they say, well, with this data we imagine that certain things are happening, and on that basis we've created a sort of a cult or a belief system that people can.
I'm sorry, just a second.
That's all right.
Hello.
Taking a phone call. Meeting friends.
No, that's my husband.
Yeah, so we built up this belief system based on these things that NASA. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm just Pranny. Nice to meet you. I'm just talking to your wife about what we've discovered about the nature of the world that we live in and how powerful the system is of education, government, and control that has stopped us from learning the truth about not only where we live, but who we are in this place. And all of us are seeking the truth about who we are and what we're doing here, what's our purpose. And the science that's been given to us today has set that purpose into the woods. We can't see the woods for the trees. We're so blinded by this science. Read this information, but truthfully we can't do any scientific experiment ourselves that shows we're on a spinning globe. And we were just talking about how we have to rely on NASA and government agencies to tell us about space. Well, when we start to unpick the moon landing and the International Space Station, we find that all of these can be provably shown to be work done in a stage, like in a Hollywood kind of
I've
soundstage.
seen a lot of videos about it, criticizing it, like, basically.
Yeah, I mean, don't trust the ones that come from the BBC and the National Geographic and stuff like that. Those are never going to give you the truth. They'll give you a little hint of something and then say, no, there's nothing to see here. And I used to trust them, up until the age of 45. I just believed the information I was given. And then I came across this formula for the curvature of Earth. Aside from this documentary, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, which shows how NASA were faking it back at the moon landings. I found there's a formula for curvature, and that is 8 inches in the mile squared. So if you're standing on a rock in the middle of the ocean and you can see 360 degrees around you, you should be able to measure or see 8 inches per mile squared of curvature of the ball going down. But we know in common sense that water has to be level, because ships are not going to come back up a curve. They would fall down a curve and never get back up the other way. So they've given us a formula that says 8 inches in the mile squared, and because it's miles squared, by 10 miles you're talking about 800 inches or 60 feet or 20 meters. By 100 miles you're talking about 6,000 feet or 2,000 meters of curvature, which is like, this doesn't exist. We can see things over distances. You could go down to a beach and look down the coastline for 50 miles and see lights 20, 30, 40 miles down the beach. We know that. So this means that something serious has been done to the human sort of psyche in order to kind of control us. And we're going around telling people that there's not only this truth that you need to learn, that your Earth might be a flat realm and we're sort of inhabitants within some sort of electromagnetic torus field. That might be what it is, but we're all connected. We're all one. There's only one creator.
And how do you explain the sun and the moon moving?
Okay, well, just like the ancient Vedas and all other ancient texts, they imagined that, they knew that the sun and the moon were both lights, small lights, and they were designed to give us our day and our night and our seasons. The moon we know is a cold light actually. Now it's not reflecting sunlight. We can do experiments where we can show how the water that's left in the direct moonlight is getting chilled, while the water that's in the shadow of the moonlight is not getting chilled. We can see a 2-degree variation in the temperature just in those sort of simple experiments. Loads of people are doing this, so it's a repeatable science that people can do. The results are sometimes inconclusive, but good science requires for it to be repeated many times and for those evidences to be brought to bear. But that's what we seem to see, is that the moon is cold and chilling, while the sun is hot and warming. They have different properties, just like the moon represents the masculine energy, the sun represents the masculine and the moon the feminine energy. And they're all connected. I mean, even the cycle of the moon is 28 days, like the cycle of the woman. And so we see this nature is our host, or our first connection, and we've lost sight of this nature. But I would say to you, yes, we see the moon and sun as small lights. They travel over our heads. We don't think that they set so much as it's the perspective of something going away from you. Like if you imagine looking out into a vista where there's clouds all the way towards the mountains. Those clouds look like they're actually touching the mountains in your distance, don't they? And that's not because they're going down, but simply perspective is drawing everything to a center point depending on your perspective, upon your height above the sea level or whatever. You will see all the clouds touching the horizon. That's not them going over, that's simply perspective. And the same as applies with the sun. If I had to take a light at about 10 meters above our head and move it towards us, it would appear to rise as it came towards us and set as it went away from us. The same is true with an aeroplane coming directly over your head. As you see it approaching, cruising at altitude, it's going to be rising. Once it gets above your head, it starts to set again. It starts to go down. But we know it's not going down. It's continuing its straight line journey at cruising altitude. So this is what perspective does for the sun. And we can explain how these things are simply lights moving over the sky. The traditional flat Earth model is one where it's going around in a center point. So there's a North Pole center, like an LP, a record player. And the sun either moves towards the outer regions for the northern Europe, or the northern hemisphere winter, or comes in closer for the summer. And it does that cycle all the time, moving in and out through the course of a year. That's the model.
Very difficult to trust given this conditioning of science that we have gone through over the years.
Yeah.
So, but this is an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, remember, to get to where we are, you have to realize that that the science is controlled by the Royal Society for Science. It's controlled very much by the faculties of the universities. And so when things like the ether, everybody used to believe that we lived in like an ether, but eventually, I think it was Einstein, he said we have to get rid of this ether. It was causing them problems with the interferometer experiments they were doing in the late 1800s to try and prove that the Earth was spinning. Those experiments, they did for 30 years, the best science that we had at the time, and they could not find that the Earth was spinning. It came back with always that there was this turning force in the few miles an hour turning in the ether, but not that the Earth itself was moving. This science is buried. And so youngsters who go to university and are taught this science at a higher level, they might even get to hear about this experiment, but they will be told why science decided it wasn't good enough because it was an inconclusive evidence. The same as Airy's failure. George Airy was the philosopher royal back in the mid-1800s, and he devised an experiment that would show whether it was sorry, don't worry about that. I just want to finish this point. Whether it was the stars that were moving or the Earth, and he found it was the stars that were moving, so they named it Airy's failure. This is peer-reviewed stuff. They named it Airy's failure and they buried it. So, I'll give you the example of tobacco or cigarettes, how in the 1950s the science about it being unhealthy, buried. The same with vaccines, the science about it being unhealthy or causing harm, it's buried. So there's many things that when you look into the way science works, you don't get tenure unless you're answering the questions correctly, and those questions are being set by our masters, the people who write all of this. So yes, the possibility that we all lived I come from South Africa, and there was a whole raft of indoctrination that was brought onto those people. It's cleverly done, but it's not done in just one area. It's done in every aspect of our lives. So is that when you are born and then raise children into a system that is a complete capsule of captivity for the mind, body, and the soul, for me, why this matters is because we will never achieve our full soul purpose while we still think we're from an evolutionary lucky strike where we may be monkeys that came out of Africa or came out of the sea or whatever, all that sort of nonsense, rather than divine creator or creation's a perfect expression, which is what we truly are. And we're meant to be having this divine, sovereign, fulfilled, rich experience or encounter with ourselves, but that's somehow been taken from us. That's somehow been hidden for the purposes, some people say, simply of taxing you. NASA costs $50 million a day. We all go off to work. We're willing to be sort of tax slaves, pay significant money for the privilege of living today. It's almost impossible to own your own home. This system is just getting tighter and tighter, and it's getting further and further away from nature. So we're trying to encourage people to, go back inside themselves to find the answers, because the answers, we've been pulled out of ourselves. The science books, the religious books, all these other means of control that we look to rather than looking within, because the truth of God or Shiva or Vishnu or whatever the kind of name you give to the Creator, or Allah, is actually within you. The truth of it is in with you. And so modern day science is trying to rob us. Modern day science for me is like a religion. There's good science that you and I can experiment for ourselves, and then there's theoretical pseudoscience that you and I have to trust a higher power, a higher authority. I no longer trust any higher authority than me and things that you and my friends and I can test for ourselves. So that's my thesis for you, and we've got some great links, information, websites that you can check out, because you've got to work this out for yourselves. There's no way I can convince you in a matter of half an hour that you've been duped. They say it's easier to fool a man than it is to convince him he's been fooled. And all of us, I'm 50 now, all of us have been fooled. There's no one trying to be clever here, just simply to share some good information with my fellow human being.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Likewise. Have a great stay and a great life. All the best. Bye-bye.
Al Big Bang no puede ser porque supuestamente el Sol
Hey guys, thanks for stopping by.
a 800 kilómetros a hora. Pues una cosa, ¿por qué las islas?
It helps having a Spanish speaker here. He's, people can catch words that he's saying and go, oh, what's he saying? So English is... Thank you for that comment. I can't really read met Dave and family at Kidderminster. They are lovely people. We are so tired. We are so tired. It stretches the lovely to, to a point where it's, it's not as zen as we would like. This is meant to be a loving experience, but it's pretty grueling. And I'm not complaining, just observing and letting people know that what we're doing here is very, very important. But it's not a jolly walk in the park. And of course, we're doing with a little boy who is obviously the most important thing here for me. Thanks for stopping by the way. I hope you enjoyed that conversation I was having with that lady. I forget her name now, but it was good. It was nice, and obviously nice to catch your husband too. But thanks for stopping by. I wonder if I can, is that flat fellow? Hello, my friend. Nice to see you. Hi, Nathan. I'm not trying to be funny, but I can barely see the screen. Let me turn around and see if that helps. Does that say seeking star water? Hello. Vertex. Hey man. Seeking star water. The guy who debated about this perspective the other day, would he be interested if he came back? Yeah, didn't come back though. It's the 007 here. Yeah. Hi, Double. Spherical world. Hi. Thank you. I just got a message in from Jason saying thank you, Dave and gang. Yeah, I think the technical issues may have been sorted out. Does it say Lord West? Landvest. Oh, hi. And thanks again for your contribution last night. It's appreciated very much. Very much. Plain old Dave. Hello. Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by. Hey, Jax. And Mark. How you going, man? Cheers. Hi, Jason. Oh.
She's on the plane.
Yeah.
Do you speak English? Because I have in English. We're showing people that we're being lied to. And we would like you to check instead of believe.
Sorry. I know what.
Okay. Can I give it you for later? Do you want in English or Espanol? Espanol.
Yeah, it's handy to have foreign language leaflets. But yeah, I accept that it takes a significant amount of logistics. And last night's moving of the van, let me tell you, was one of the hairiest things I've done in quite a long time. Much respect to Jack for his indefatigability in driving that van. I did end up in some of the tightest roads, and Jack was pleased with my parking this morning when he got up to see where we were. But it was a tense moment, and I'll be honest and say that. Let me just turn the camera on me. And say that for a brief moment there, I was like, shit, the tour is riding on me pulling this off right now, getting this vehicle to the next place. So it wasn't without its little bit of tension. So that was fun, but I pulled it up at 1:30 and went, this is where we're going to have to stop tonight. We were parked in a garage forecourt, but it was closed at that time, and we knew we'd eventually get moved on, but thankfully where I was parked was suitably out of the way that they didn't bother us, and we left just before 9 o'clock. Takes a while to get the van going, because we're 5 or 6 people, and people have to get their stuff together and move around each other, and not everyone's got everything at the right moment and stuff like that. So it does take a degree of patience as well to. But I think we went live earlier today than we normally do, and Jack's probably going to have to go back to the van soon and move it, because we were limited to 4 hours. In fact, he may have already gone back to the van. We were limited to 4 hours where we parked. Because we can only we're about 1 kilometer away again from this downtown, this area of Madrid. It's, again, staggering history, staggering beauties. Who knows what the truth is, though, of this place. I'm hoping, truthfully, for some higher sort of in-language footfall, because it's difficult. It's difficult for me to contribute as much without the language. So let's carry on, shall we? Hey, bro. Do you speak English? A little? So, cool. We're traveling around Europe at the moment, talking to people about how we've been lied to, about where we live.
I don't understand.
That too much. Okay. You speak Spanish? You wanting a photo? Sorry, man. I'll leave you to it. His wife's taking a happy snap, and I'm trying to flat smack. Hey ho. See, you'll notice the cobbled stones here. I can't do the chalk on these. It just doesn't work very well. I've got the Howard flyer here. Spanish language flyer. Sometimes when you're in a tourist spot, you get the feeling that people are thinking you're some kind of local hawker, some kind of trader. Some information? Some information? These guys look the same all over the world. Yeah. Yeah, I mean we could try. It's obviously we've tied it to the back fence because of the wind behind it. I think it turns into a sail like now, and it will be taking off. I get you, because people are not necessarily noticing us here. What was that?
If we move this a little bit back,
Yep.
people won't be scared to walk here because I think they're walking around.
Yep. Yeah. Have you gone live? Lisa's been struggling with her connection today. So what's the Earth is flat again in Adam told me last night, but I forgot.
Es plana.
La Tierra es plana.
Sí.
La Tierra es plana. Is that right? La Tierra es plana. This is what you need. La Tierra es plana, my friends. It's Luigi. He is Italian, isn't he?
Vemos la isla de Ibiza a 111 kilómetros. Otra vez la isla de Ibiza sin pérdida de por estar ocultado por culpa de la curvatura. No hay curvatura medida. Si la Tierra está 70% cubierta en agua nivelada, ¿cómo puede ser la forma esférica? Nos mienten, nos dan mucho Hollywood.
33 in the chat. Don't forget to thumbs up. Give us a like or an unlike.
Son de Photoshop. Y por eso nunca vemos el reportaje del clima en tiempo real, porque es siempre gráfica atrás de la chica. Y también por eso cuando están mirando la temperatura de la luna con agua, se ve que el agua enfría por la luz de la luna. Entonces no es un reflejo del sol. Nos mienten de pisar la luna, nos mienten de la forma de la Tierra y nos dicen que el Big Bang nos hace volar perdido por espacio, pero si fuera verdad, ¿por qué vemos el mismo horóscopo ahora, el zodiaco, igual que los aztecas, las minas y los egipcios? Somos ingleses, Sudáfrica, media italiana. Estamos viendo por toda la Tierra que no hay curvatura, que la luz de la luna enfría y que las estrellas no son lo que nos han dicho ni tan lejos. Nos mienten por mucho dinero nos roban. Entonces tenemos que dejar que nos roban dinero, tenemos que dejar que adoctrinan a los niños y tenemos que dejar que fumigan los cielos. Te voy a dar un folleto, lo puedes ver luego en casa.
See, that's really feeding the wind right now.
Fumigan el cielo porque confiamos en ellos,
Do you speak English? Excuse me. Walks away.
Yo 2 años mirándolo y ayudando que la gente despierta poco a poco, porque esto vamos respirando todos. Muchísimas gracias, señor. Encantado.
Nice one. Nice one.
I've got a celebrity.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, he was up for that.
Yeah,
Luigi was.
He wanted it.
Yeah. Well done, Howard.
Thank you.
I'm feeling like your language is a real advantage, man. a real
Yeah,
advantage.
It's a shame you haven't been able to get someone in each country to
Yeah.
translate the flyers. Next tour,
Yeah.
you've got to have the flyers in each language.
Yeah. And some local language speakers. I think it
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. Don't you want to just grab that, straighten that up for us? So we had the police drive by, and they just kept going, right? I don't know if they looked at us, but they just kept going. Hey, the police didn't pay us much heed.
Nothing at all. They probably think that we've got permission.
Yeah, they
You know what I
wouldn't.
mean? Unless the town hall says no, they haven't got permission.
La tierra,
La tierra plana.
la tierra plana, la tierra plana, la tierra plana, la tierra plana, my friends. La tierra plana. Anyone speak English? All right.
I'm
Yeah.
presentation.
Earth is not a globe. Water will fall off the globe. La tierra plana.
Casa de la panadería.
Yeah, take some information.
So is de España.
Take a flyer.
Que no, por favor, que venimos dando clase.
Take a, yeah, it's information. It's class for school.
No, por favor.
Vale. She's in class.
I'm doing a presentation.
Adoctrinación contra ciencia repetible. Comprueba a nivel de mar, verás que no hay curvatura, la luz de la luna enfría y las estrellas hagas grabación con vídeo y verás que no son tan lejos. Nos engaña, comprueba. No tener creencias, comprueba.
Comprueba. That's it. Well played, mate. The school
I said, don't just get indoctrinated, check for yourself.
teacher doesn't want you to know the truth. Water is level. La tierra, la tierra,
Plana.
la tierra plana. La tierra è plana. Hello. Do you speak in English? Oh, good. Thanks. I wouldn't mind having a quick chat with you about this flat Earth theory.
I'm not interested, to be honest. I appreciate your help, but I'm not interested. Can I read this?
Of course.
Thank you.
La tierra plana. La tierra plana. La tierra è plana, my friends. La tierra è plana. La tierra è plana. I got some information. Open the mind. La tierra è plana, my friend. Take some information. A flyer. La tierra è plana, my friend. Take a flyer. La tierra è plana. La tierra è plana. No globo. La tierra è plana. Take a flyer. Some information. La tierra è plana. Take some flyers. Information.
Solo grasa, tú.
La tierra è plana. La tierra è plana, my friend. La tierra è plana. La tierra è plana, my friend. Take a flyer. Uh-huh.
¿Y me caigo?
No, what? Agua fall off a ball. No globo.
Pero si es plana.
Ah, no, water must be contained.
Verde.
Yeah. Agua must be in a cup, in a lake, in a sea. A free gift.
La tierra es plana, ¿no?
La tierra è plana, my brother.
La tierra es plana.
We can't go into space. Space is fake.
Sí.
Moon landing fake. Tierra è plana.
No, gracias.
Tierra è plana. Take a information.
La tierra es plana.
Take a,
No quiero.
Terra è plana. La terra è plana. Got some information? La terra è plana. La terra è plana. La terra è plana. Take some info. La terra è plana. Take some info. Hey friends, thanks for stopping by. I can't see the chat right now. La Terra è plana. Earth is flat. We've been lied to about where you live, you know? Earth is flat. Water is level. Sea is level. Earth is flat.
I'm trying to make my point scientist, you should...
Oh, he's got a scientist in the bag. That's why she wasn't interested in talking to me.
I want you to do what
La Terra è plana.
and share how to check with other people. So when other people have checked it, and there's enough people that agree that moonlight chills water, stars are not that far away, and there's no curvature at water level, we won't let them take 100 million a day that could go to end world hunger, research illnesses, and stop the fires.
La Terra è plana.
But scientific.
Do you speak English?
Thank you. No. We're not asking you to believe the world is flat. We're asking you to check for the curvature that mathematics
Well,
says
but
it
if
should
I
be.
believe the world, the earth is rounded, I mean, I don't need any other proof. Because I believe that.
But you believe
But
in
I
what you
believe
see on the
your point that
television,
maybe too
where
much.
science...
Listen to me now.
Right, don't be
to
so
you.
angry, though.
No, I'm
been
upset
fighting.
because I'm telling you, I'm not going through this because I can read this. So I'm asking you what's your point. Your point, what is your point? That the earth is not...
What they tell us.
Well, and at the same time that too much money is put on that. So I'm taking, I take the second part. Maybe too much money is put on that, but I'm not taking the first point, which is that the earth is flat.
I haven't said the earth is flat. You've said the earth is flat. I'm saying that it doesn't curve what mathematics says it has to.
Well, that's not okay. That's not an issue. I mean, the issue for me would be how much money is put on the other
Yes,
side.
but how can we prove that they're lying with science? Not by believing scientists, by doing the science.
I'm not going to enter that discussion. My point is,
No, but we agree,
well,
don't we? We agree on that.
I'm not going to agree on that. I'm not going to discuss about that now. My point is that if your point is that too much money is put on that, you don't need this argument. There are
It's not
other
an argument.
arguments.
I'm just telling you what experiments that you could do as a scientist.
Yes, but I'm not going to buy that point, the second point, based on this.
No, until
You know?
you've done the experiments, you don't know, do you?
You're not listening to me. I'm not explaining very well. The point is, if too much money is put
That's
on
one
one
point.
thing,
That's one
yes,
point.
well, that's the main point, because you are putting this argument to support the argument
I
that's
would-
too much money.
I'll give you two
listen,
more
Listen to me.
if you listen to me also.
No, you cannot. You have to put your point. And I'm
trying.
telling you, I'm telling you that I'm only buying the point that maybe, I'm not sure, I don't have the figures, that maybe too much money is put on going to the moon or whatever.
So we
that
agree.
could be an issue.
So
yes, but
my-
I'm not going to agree
My
on that
other
because,
two, my other 2 points.
but the scientific reasons, what's your background?
Oh my
What
goodness.
did you study?
I
What's
have
your background?
5 senses that can be checked.
You have other things.
Which is why I'm asking
Nice
you to.
meeting you.
I'm asking
I
you to
might buy
check
the
with the
second
thermometer.
point, but I'm not buying
You don't know what the third and second point is, but have a lovely day with your scientific background.
You too. I'm trying to buy something. Nobody's buying you.
You don't let people speak. How can she know what my second and third point is if she doesn't let me finish speaking? And then she's walking away telling me she doesn't want the experiments because she's happy believing the Earth's round. I'm saying,
Yeah.
look, that's not science. You've just said you've got a scientific background. I'm asking you to check. And she just wanted to argue. She's interrupting me. When I said, do you want to speak Spanish? She said Spanish. I start speaking Spanish. Then she says, but where are you from? Changing the argument into where I'm from. I'm like, England. So she says, well, I want to speak English. So we start in English. And then she's just, what's your point? What's your point? And I'm thinking, my point is, I'm asking you to check with science because you just told me you're a scientist.
She
But
didn't
you're
want to
not
hear
letting
that.
me tell you the
Yeah.
experiments. You're just arguing with me. And I don't know what she was arguing about, really.
Me neither.
It's like she was agreeing about the money going to waste.
You guys are English. You're reading the English version?
Yeah.
You speak English?
Well, we're not English, but yeah.
You speak English pretty well. You're traveling or you live?
Yeah.
Yeah? Awesome.
But you're filming me?
Yeah, is that right?
No.
Okay. I'll
You
film
have to ask my permission.
I'll film me. We're going around Europe talking to people in different cities. I'm filming me now. We're going around Europe talking to people in different cities to try and alert them that we've been misled on a grand scale. On
Okay.
a total
I
scale.
think we don't have to continue this conversation. I just want to read.
All right.
Thank you.
She said that she didn't want me to tell her the
Some you win,
because she could read them later.
some you
She
don't.
didn't take the flyer. So, she could read it herself. Ignorant. Sorry.
La terra è plana. Is that right? La terra è plana. La terra è plana. turn this around. Thanks for stopping by. La Terra è plana. La Terra è plana.
Those students were interested.
La Terra è plana.
So I said, no, you're indoctrinating them. We're trying to teach them how to check for themselves.
You told her that? Cool.
Yeah. And they were all laughing at her.
Cool. I got chased off by a school teacher in where was I? Hello. La Terra è plana.
At least we got Luciano.
Milano, that's where I was. Oh yeah, you got Luigi. Luigi, you got. Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will cut that out, especially in Spanish. La Terra è plana. Some information. Earth is flat. You've been lied to about where you live. La Terra è plana. Earth is flat. The earth is flat. You've been lied to about where you live. You've been lied to about the nature of this place and who you are. The earth is flat. La Terra è plana. La Terra è plana.
Have a great day, mate.
Why can't you leave me alone to read? But I don't want. You ask me why.
Read it. We won't film you. We won't film you.
Go, yeah?
You fucking go.
I'm trying to be
you
nice.
fucking go, you fucking asshole. So
Hey, calm down, man.
don't you be so
I'm not being
aggressive.
You're being
Calm
aggressive.
down.
You're being aggressive. Yeah? I tried to offer you a script to read like you say you want. I know, I told him I'm not filming him, but he's still...
Yeah, he did ask me not to film, but he was a little bit cagey, shall we say.
What it was, they were studying laughing. So I thought, if you're going to stand here, I'm going to tell you that we're not preaching beliefs. Otherwise, don't stand here, because if you're going to stand here laughing,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
fine,
negative,
man.
vibe.
fine.
So, didn't want to argue with him, but
Yeah.
he blew up on me.
But I think because this subject might be triggering him, so just, I mean, from my own perspective, I try not to trigger them back, because it's very easy to, when they're already triggered, to kind of push them over the edge like you just did now. I was thinking, okay, I've got a handful of flyers and I've got a camera. How am I going to get involved in this? I'm going to have to drop the flyers, hopefully not the camera.
No, I didn't want to.
In the end, the wife came in, swooped in and took the protagonist away. Hey ho, this is Madrid. La Terra è plana. Earth is flat. Earth is flat. You've been lied to about where you live. This is not a spinning ball, Earth. Balls don't float in space. That's complete nonsense. Water always needs to be contained. Water will always find its level, which is why we say sea level and water level and ocean level. There's one great ocean for our Earth. It's contained around an Antarctic ring, perhaps. But there's no balls in space. Water will not conform to the outside of a moving shape, let alone a stationary shape. Water is level. I've got some flyers for you, some information. Earth globe has got zero curvature. If you live on a ball, if you think you live on a ball, go measure the curvature. La Terra plana. La Terra plana. Do you speak English? Nine. German. We were just in Germany. Just a few days ago we were going around Germany. This won't help you then. It's Spanish. You don't speak Spanish, do you?
Yes, I do speak.
You do? Okay. Take this information.
Oh, yeah, very interesting.
We've been given a whole lot of untruth about who we are and where we live. Check it out. La Terra plana.
So please do the experiment and then you'll see that we're not preaching.
La Terra plana. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. No globes. Water won't stick to a ball. It also means that the history lesson that you're getting from these people is probably creatively designed to maintain a particular narrative.
Say the earth is flat. Say flat.
La Terra plana. The earth is flat. The earth is flat, not a ball, not a Disney space ball. Oh, here's a NASA fanboy. La Terra plana. My friend, Earth is flat. NASA are faking space. They never went to the moon. La Terra plana.
Now, if you're here for work, or with the secret cover, you don't have to be in the photo. No evidence behind.
La Terra plana. La Terra plana. Earth is flat, not a globe. Water won't stick to a globe. Humans can't walk under a globe. Earth is flat. The earth is flat. Yay! Look at that. We got a group photo of flat earthers here in Madrid, Español. La Terra plana. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. Your government is deceiving you. Your science is a religion. Gravity is a hoax. A theory upon which your balls are built. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. La Terra plana. It's fun, you know, beautiful building. I mean, obviously fairly simple by comparison to some of the others that we see, but grand scale, isn't it? Grand scale. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. Your government, NASA, is hoaxing you. NASA is Disney. La Terra plana, I got some information for you. La Terra plana. La Terra plana, take some information. La Terra plana. La Terra plana. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. We're not getting the attraction rate that I would like to see. We're not stopping people enough. You know, we're not getting enough people to stop by at this point. Yeah, somebody, but let's see if language.
Speak English or
There's enough of us. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. Do you speak English?
Estamos compartiendo tres experimentos que podéis comprobar vosotras en casa. Mejor que tener creencias en científicos, mejor comprobar con ciencia repetible, ¿no? Para saber, en vez de tener creencias. Pues a ninguna distancia perdemos paisaje por culpa de curvatura. A ninguna distancia. pero matemáticamente debe haber una bajada muy visible con 30 kilómetros. ¿De dónde sois?
De Madrid.
De Madrid. Yo soy de Benidorm y de Benidorm puedo ver a Alicante por 33 kilómetros y debe haber 80 metros de bajada.
Can I give you a flyer? Some information. Take one of these. It's in English. Yeah. Yeah, that's you. Sorry. Thanks. All right. Thank you. There's some websites on there.
Con resultados en conflicto, os avisáis, pero si llegáis a tener los mismos resultados, por ejemplo, desde Denia, mirando a la isla de Ibiza, que son 111 kilómetros, debe haber 1000 metros.
Pero yo como pruebo la distancia.
Pero vosotros creéis que si seguimos con un barco,
Eso es un efecto, cuando vemos al barco desaparecer, no es que pasa por el horizonte, entra al horizonte. Es un punto de compresión.
Pero si sigue, si es plano en algún momento, que
es
eterno, o que es lo que en algún momento tiene que haber fin.
Yo no sé si la Tierra es plana, puede ser una forma cuartidimensional, solo el creador sabrá. Yo no soy el creador ni tengo la tecnología como NASA supuestamente tiene, pero vamos a ver las cosas de NASA. Nos dicen que vamos volando con el Sol a 800.000 kilómetros a la hora por el Vía Láctea, ¿no? También vamos orbitando a 100.000 kilómetros a la hora y giramos a 1.600 kilómetros a la hora. Pues una cosa, si el nave espacial supuestamente más rápido va a 20 a 30.000 kilómetros, que es 10 veces más rápido que una bala, vamos, ¿cómo puede ser que hemos salido de la gravedad de la Tierra para tocar en la Luna? Y después, ¿cómo hemos salido de la Luna si no hay combustión en el vacío para regresar a la Tierra, que va no solo 800.000 kilómetros a la hora, olvidamos del Sol? ¿Cómo hemos llegado a la Tierra si no tenemos una nave espacial tan rápido como la supuesta órbita de la Tierra? A 100.000 kilómetros a la hora. ¿Por qué no hemos visto ningún cambio en el horóscopo? El zodiaco sigue igual hoy en día que cuando los aztecas, minas y egipcios han puesto en piedra el zodiaco. ¿Entiendes? Vemos a Escorpio con las pintas en sitio, vemos a Acuario con el agua sin gotear, vemos a Orion con la cinturón alineada con las pirámides de Giza. 10.000 años dibujado en piedra y no ha cambiado ninguna estrella de situación. Nos mienten y como se sabe, no solo por la historia, con una cámara moderna, tú enfocas en una estrella, un planeta, y hagas vídeo y lo reproduces en velocidad lenta y vas a ver que no hay distorsión en las estrellas, los parpadeos se ven con geometría, parecen electricidad, no bolas de fuego, pero no pido que crees en lo que digo, no, lo que demuestro. Tú hagas el experimento. Yo no sé si es plano o forma cuartidimensional, sé que nos llevan 100 millones, pues algo que nos mienten por más de 100 millones de puestos mundiales.
Ojalá solo fuera.
Speak English? Español, huh? He speaks Spanish.
Falta de curvatura a nivel de mar y verás que no hay curvatura. Estamos en ello y estamos pidiendo que los científicos que lo comprueban.
Thank you. Gracias, I should say.
No todos, la mayoría, porque pierden su trabajo y no hay estudios.
Hay estudios que la Tierra es redonda.
No, al contrario, no hay evidencia de curvatura medible a nivel de mar en ninguna instancia. Cuando has subido Red Bull a hacer las paracaídas de 40 kilómetros de altura, comprueba la grabación, abre la puerta, está a nivel de ojo, horizonte. ¿Cómo puede ser a 40 kilómetros de altura y no tienes que buscar el horizonte? Si curva hacia abajo, lo debes buscar. ¿Por qué importa? La luz de la luna enfría el agua, compruébalo con el termómetro.
La Tierra es plana. You want some information? Spanish?
No, we're just looking. Thank you.
All right. There's English on the corner there if you want.
desarrollan enfermedades, están causando enfermedades y metiendo toxinas en el aire para combatir el cambio climático porque confían en ellos 50 gobiernos del país.
Era acercarnos por ver lo que...
La página oficial del gobierno de España informa que están haciendo modificación artificial del clima con química. ¿Por qué no quitamos los patentes de los ricos que llevan energía renovable?
Tú me andas poniendo en contra de la NASA, pero pues yo todavía no entiendo la forma cuando la Tierra no es plana.
Prefiero no decir que es plana porque
Pero es vuestra creencia, ¿no? Es plana.
yo no tengo creencia. Sé que no es una esfera de 40.000 kilómetros de circunferencia porque no hay la curvatura medible a ninguna distancia.
Pero no sabes cómo es.
Ahí está. Prefiero no decir que es plana porque esto me hace increíble. Puede ser plana o una forma que no podemos entender.
Lo que queréis es
Que no nos roban tanto dinero, 100 millones al día, que enfermedades podrían investigar. ¿A dónde se falta? Y no adoctrinar a los niños, hacernos materialistas, pensar que vamos perdidos por espacio si no estamos con evidencia de mover 100.000 años. Hay evidencia que son más cercanas a las estrellas y la luz enfría el agua. Compruébalo y ayúdanos porque solo hay que avisar a la gente cómo se comprueba y cuanto más
Do you speak English? Espanol. Okay, I got some Spanish information there. You can listen to my friend talking as well. He's talking about what's going on.
Todos podemos ser científicos.
These guys want to join your conversation.
Compruebas y somos mayoría los políticos y van a dejar que pierden los impuestos, van a
Bit windy
dejar de
today.
adoctrinar niños a ser materialistas y perdidos por espacio insignificante y vamos a dejar de fumigar los cielos con química y quitar los patentes de los ricos que tienen energías renovables en tecnología que no nos dejan crear.
Al final es solamente intereses económicos y de
salud mental, espiritual y salud de la juventud, porque al aire es de todos y nos están haciendo lo que ellos crean. No debemos confiar en NASA, debemos investigarles muy bien.
Muy bien.
Con nosotros cuando vamos informando cómo se puede comprobar las cosas. Quieren debatir creencias, quieren hacernos sentir tontos porque no creemos en Einstein o la teoría.
La Tierra es plana. La Tierra es plana.
Se puede conversar con respeto.
I think I got that.
Como habéis aportado
Es plana. La Tierra es plana. Some information? La Tierra es plana. Information. La Tierra es plana. La Tierra es plana. Es plana. La Tierra es plana. La Tierra es plana. La Tierra es plana. You know? Very good. Yeah.
What's this?
Water is level.
What's this?
We're saying Earth is flat.
What's flat?
Flat.
Where you come from?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Yeah, Africa.
I'm from South Africa. We know in South Africa
Yes,
that
I come from Senegal.
Africa is
You know
on
Senegal,
level.
no? Senegal?
Of course I know Senegal.
Senegal.
Yeah.
Senegal's the first language is French, but I learn English in the school.
Your English is very good.
Yes.
English is
No,
very good. Right?
I learned English in school only for 10 years, but I speak English a little bit.
No, not bad. Well, we're saying Earth is not a spinning ball. That's been made up by the people that run our world. We can't prove that at all. There's no science that proves that we're on a spinning ball. And common sense and physics tells us that water has to be contained. Water will always find a level once it's been contained. And we say that our oceans are in one big container. So there's one sea level, a little bit of tidal swell, one sea level across the whole Earth, Africa, America, South America, Australia, one sea level.
All the people, no?
All the people are on one plane, like on a big tabletop. And if we were underneath, my brother, we would fall off. we would fall right off.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I've got some Spanish information or English information for you.
Yes, but I speak English, French, and Spanish.
Okay, well, I've got some websites here you can look at. Do you go on the computer at all? I'll give you this. There's some websites on here. On the side. Go and check them out and do some research for yourself. Free your mind. Discover the truth that we're slaves. Yeah, we're all slaves, and we've all been imprisoned, mainly in the mind, body and soul too, because they want your soul here. But I'm trying to help people liberate their soul.
Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Go well. From Senegal. The brother from Senegal sounds like a bird. Very good English though. People like having their photo taken here for some reason. It's like, oh look, I was here. Yeah. How was that interaction for you with those ladies?
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Absolutely brilliant. They were tough at first, but I cracked them. And one of them in particular that didn't take a flyer, she was the last one. She had questions. And the guy was totally on it as well.
Right.
The other two took flyers, but they were still a little bit like, what does it matter? What does it matter? And I'm like, well, when you've got someone ill in your family and you think, why isn't there more cures and preventions for these illnesses? Well, then you might care that all that money's going to waste.
Well, yeah. Well, and I mean, they're never going to relinquish that money, though. And even if they did, they wouldn't be using it on making us well. They'd just continue to hide good medicine and continue to toxify the human experience.
I just feel like the more we know, the harder it is for them to deceive us and rob us and poison us. So, you know, we've got to keep informing people, even if they're ungrateful and want to argue. And even he didn't want to fight me.
Yeah.
He made a big scene because he wanted a big scene, and it was because he was in that big group.
Well, and also, you know, he might be a little bit testy. He might be, you know, on holiday.
He really wanted an argument because first he was saying, "Don't record me." I'm saying, "I'm not recording you." And I put my camera down. He's I just want to read. And I'm like, well, you can read this in peace. There's more information. It's in Spanish. Oh, you're terrible. I've just said I want this and I want that. And I'm like, yeah, but you're also studying laughing. And this is our serious topic.
Endeavour.
So I don't mind if you want to stand here and have a respectful conversation, but if you're going to just shout at me or stand here laughing, I'd prefer you to just piss off, you know. And then when I told you, I've just told you fuck off, because you heard the word fuck, you thought that was a big offensive thing, and I'm like, whatever. He's a tough guy.
Well, when the fuck started coming out, I knew it was potentially going to get angry.
Yeah.
You know.
I just couldn't believe how he'd been so aggressive with me when I'm walking up to him saying, no, I'm not recording you, no, I'm just trying to give you this so you can... I'm talking nice to him, and he's like, rah, 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 rah. So when I saw him coming at me, I just thought, I've got to take my camera off, because if he does take a swing, I'm going to at least want to swing.
Well, you wouldn't want to record it. You wouldn't want to have a body cam on and record the incoming blow. That would be...
I'm more worried about that getting damaged than anything else, because I'm here to work and help raise awareness. And you know what I mean? It's like I don't want to fight anyone, but if someone wants to take a swing at me, just watch the camera, mind the camera.
Yeah. Well, look at Adam Meakin. They swung at his nuts. And, you know, he took one for the team, to be fair. So, you know,
it's programmed responses. It's just...
Yeah.
It's like I say, that lady about the science, she was so aggressive, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting used to it, but it's always surprising.
Oh well, it's just another day on tour. How's your stream going? You're holding it? Okay, cool. So it's La Tierra es plana.
La Tierra plana.
La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana.
Everyone watching, thanks for the support.
La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. Earth is a ball, not a ball, it's a flat plane. Water is level, sea is level, oceans are level. Earth is definitely flat. Well, that's what I say anyway. The globe is a hoax. The globe, no globo. La Tierra plana. 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 I think Jack would have left some in the bottle, in the bag, water. Failing that, I know Howard's got a little bit of distilled water on him, which is a bit of a bonus. Not had any of that for a while now. La tierra plana. You might have heard me say earlier that Sven has taken poorly. He's pretty ropey, feeling absolutely crap and couldn't make it out today. So it's par for the course on the bus. You know, we do get little colds and flus or colds happening to us, I guess, because we're in such close confines, living with much less sleep and comfort that we used to, and perhaps not the same normal dietary excellence that you might be able to get in a situation where you're at home. So yeah, Sven, hope he's back on his feet soon. La tierra plana. La tierra plana. I got some information. La tierra plana. Some information. NASA is faking space. NASA never went to the moon. La tierra plana. La tierra plana. I feel like the town crier. La tierra plana. La tierra plana. La tierra plana. Probably sound like a foreigner saying that, don't I? But hey ho. La tierra plana. Brother, Earth is flat. Earth is not a ball. Balls don't float. NASA fakes space. Earth is flat. NASA is faking space, my friends. Earth is definitely not a ball. Globes do not float. Water will not cling to the outside of your bottle. It has to be contained. Water always must be contained. That's the natural physics of water. We know this when we're 5 years old. We get lied to. We get robbed of our true senses. La tierra plana. The Spanish language there, if you want to read that. Some information. Free your mind. Liberate your mind from the deception that is this crazy world. There's Luigi. He's, I think, our newest flat earther. He sounded pretty interested when Howard was giving him some of the lowdown. Income generation. La tierra plana. La tierra plana. Earth is flat. Earth is flat. We've been lied to about where we live and who we are. La tierra plana. Earth is flat. NASA hoax space. NASA never went to the moon. La tierra plana.
Solo ha pisado Michael Jackson en el número, ¿sabes? Los están engañando por mucho dinero. 100 millones de impuestos mundiales al día va a Hollywood, que podría investigar.
La tierra plana.
Acabar la pobreza mundial y acabar las.
Some information. Earth is flat. We've been lied to about where we live. NASA is hoaxing you, faking space. NASA in Hollywood, really? They're a double act, aren't they? Along with JPL or NASA. Yeah, well, JPL, I suppose, but. Yeah. La Tierra Plana. I got some information for you. The Earth is flat. I got it in Spanish as well, if that's your language of choice. Espanol? Okay, my friend here is Spanish, but I'm English, so I don't speak that. But here's some information in Spanish about the nature of, thank you, the nature of the world we live in. Check it out. I'm dropping flyers as I go. Sorry about the moving camera action. Howard, perhaps you could have a word with these guys. They are Spanish.
Super. Mira, no estamos aquí para combatir creencias religiosas. Al contrario, estamos pidiendo que la gente comprueba con unos experimentos prácticos muy fáciles. A nivel de mar, cuando estáis de playa, podéis ver por la costa, a cualquier distancia o hacia una isla, a cualquier distancia, nunca hay pérdida por culpa de curvatura. Siempre vemos la isla entera o el paisaje entero, a cualquier distancia, pero la matemática obliga que después de 20 kilómetros debe ser una bajada bastante notable. Es como 2% de cada kilómetro baja, supuestamente, pero no es evidente, no es medible en ninguna distancia. Entonces, ¿puede ser la Tierra plana? Sí. O puede ser una forma cuartidimensional, un átomo, atmósfera, yin yang, porque la luz de la luna enfría el agua. Lo puedes comprobar con un termómetro. En vez de creerme, compruébalo en tu jardín.
La Tierra plana.
En la fase menguaje y verás que enfría el agua. Si fuera un rojo reflejando luz del sol,
La Tierra plana.
podría ser
La Tierra plana.
los vientos de más de 100 millones de dinero al día, impuestos de nuestros familiares, que podría investigar enfermedades, acabar la pobreza mundial, apagar los fuegos en Amazonas. Y aparte, los gobiernos, 50 países en el mundo, que es el Estado de España, que confían en NASA, tecnología de
Lisa there.
para combatir el cambio climático.
Out in Spanish.
Más las toxinas que vamos respirando.
Some old
por el
guys.
cambio de temperatura. No debemos confiar en este culto.
Finding it amusing.
Menos cuando podemos demostrar con una cámara que las
Hopefully they'll
estrellas
talk
se
about it
enfocan
at the dinner
muy
table.
cerca y no son fuego, son como electricidad muy cercana, no 30 trillones. No hay distorsión en las grabaciones modernas porque la tecnología avanza y sus mentiras se quedan atrás. Igual que el Big Bang es un pedo, porque nos hacen sentir infinitamente pequeña, perdido por espacio. Yo te digo que tenemos significado en esta vida y no nos quieren hacer caso al juicio final, nos quieren hacer bordes para que somos materialistas, más fácil de guiar. La historia demuestra que no había ningún movimiento como nos
At the Plaza
dicen,
Mayor.
800.000 kilómetros al hora con el sol por la vía de la
Central Madrid.
¿Por qué vemos la zodiacal al horizonte?
La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. NASA is faking. Plana. See, I got nothing to. That's all that's all I got, and then they can walk off. I can't. No riposte. La Tierra plana. I got some information. La Tierra plana. Some information.
Entonces, si el agua está siempre nivelada a cualquier distancia y la Tierra está 70% cubierto en agua nivelada, pues será Tierra plana o cuartidimensional que no podemos comprobar, pero no es una esfera de 40.000 kilómetros de circunferencia. Esto es un hecho. Lo que es, no sé, pero lo que no es, sí que sé. Lo que digo, porque puede ser que os miento. Ayúdanos a compartir conocimiento de cómo comprobar que es mucho dinero y mucho aire que nos afecta a todos. Muchísimas gracias. Muy gracias. Igualmente.
Bye bye. Nice to meet you. All the best.
Starting to rain a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a cloud above us. That's so
Well,
weird, isn't it?
yeah, it could have
When
blown
there's a
in.
blue sky
Yeah.
above us, it starts to rain. Weird.
We used to call it a monkey's wedding, and it was sunny and raining at the same time. Who knows what that's about?
Well, I think I'm going to have that well-deserved wee-wee I've been holding since I got here.
Cool, mate.
So
Well,
was
thanks
that
for sharing
camera?
that with my stream.
It's number
With
one.
30 people in the chat room or in the.
The
Oh.
builders will get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggle with one hand free, one hand on the camera. La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. La Tierra plana. Earth is flat. Or the wind is playing havoc with our signage. it's pretty chilly. It's not the Spain I normally come on holiday to. Well, La Terra plana. Earth is flat. NASA is fake.
Just do an English accent.
And remember to say El globo es una mentira.
El globo es una mentira.
Una mentira.
El globo es una
Es una
mentira. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. NASA and Hollywood have got your mind trapped. I'm going to stand on this for a while because it's blowing all over the shop. La Terra plana. La Terra plana. I don't remember that other one you just taught me, Lisa. That's a little bit beyond my skill set. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. Earth is flat. They're not interested here that much,
I
eh?
think we've got the wrong place. This
Yeah.
is maybe a little cultural place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that. I think we might.
If we're on a shopping street, it's not as...
It would be a little bit
I
more
think we're in the
cosmo.
wrong place. People are here to have the lectures and do photos of this place.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we might have to consider resetting. La Terra plana. Earth is flat. Earth not a globe. Water is level. Sea is level. Earth is level. La Terra plana. People look away from me when I say that. Like, oh, look out.
I think you're better off saying NASA miente. NASA lies, NASA lies.
NASA miente. NASA miente. No, try it. NASA miente. Earth is flat. NASA is hoaxing space. I heard an American accent there as the man walked past. Nice in the sun. La Terra plana. What was that? NASA.
NASA miente.
NASA miente.
Or if it's easier, say NASA mentira. NASA mentira.
NASA mentira.
Yeah, that's good.
NASA mentira.
That's good. It sounds.
NASA mentira. Mentira, NASA. Moon. Mentira. NASA mentira. NASA mentira. Earth is flat. NASA mentira. They're busy preparing for some kind of event back here. As you can see, they're putting up, I guess it's a Christmas market. It's been a few times.
La tierra no. Oh, actually, didn't pronounce it right. I'll try again.
NASA mentira.
NASA mentira.
NASA mentira. NASA mentira.
Sounds strong. It sounds better, doesn't it?
What is it? What am I saying?
NASA's fake. NASA's lie.
NASA mentira.
Mentira.
Mentira. NASA mentira. Take some information. Earth is flat.
La tierra no gira.
La tierra no gira.
Yeah.
I could be saying a whole lot of funny old stuff, right?
Yeah.
NASA mentira. Take some information. Free your mind. NASA is faking space. Earth is flat.
Well, we've got Charles putting in Spanish telling us to say the earth is not flat.
Ah.
I think people won't notice.
NASA mentira. The trolls don't realize that they believe in a Hollywood division of the military known as NASA. The wind is picking up.
Cold and windy in Spain.
Our research globe live is getting a little bit hammered by the wind. Let me just put these down for now. I thank you for stopping by, and hope there's something of use for you today. Yeah, I mean, one of the big learnings from this exercise is certainly to have the language makes a huge difference. The amount of wind that's blowing on this right now is greater than these hooks can manage. As you can see, it's blowing over pretty strongly right now. I might cut the stream and attend to housekeeping. I will speak to you a little later. We'll see if we can set up again somewhere else or take stock, see where we are. At the moment, we don't have Jack with us because he needed to shift the van. Parking was limited. We had a parking attendant come by, take a photo of the van, then make you put your number plate into the ticket system. And I know we felt we couldn't leave it there without risking a penalty. So he's gone to move it, relocate it, and then come back to us. We've obviously lost Sven today, down sick, pretty sick, to be fair. So, you know, I want to let Howard have as much time as he can to do the local thing, because it's fantastic seeing it, you know, and I hope there's some Spanish speakers who will be able to mirror this content and use it for their own, you know, activism or their own purposes.
When you make a video,
It's English.
video in slow motion, that stars are not so far away. There's no distortion. They look more like electric than balls of fire. If the stars were really going around from a big bang, like our sun's supposed to be going, what was it, 100,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way?
Yeah.
Well, how come we still see Scorpio with the claws in place? Aquarius has still got the water in place. Orion's belt is still in line with the pyramids. After 10,000 years of them doing it in stone, the zodiac hasn't changed at all. Not even moved. And also, the moon is a feminine energy. It chills water within 30 minutes. Check with a thermometer and 2 glasses of water in your garden, and you'll see that moonlight chills water. Stars are not that far away, and whenever you're at the beach, you'll lose any landscape behind curvature. We're being lied to for 100 million a day, and 50 governments around the world trust NASA's technology to combat climate change by putting chemicals in the sky, instead of taking away all the patents from the rich people that have renewable energy technology. Why don't we lower the emissions before we increase them? Come on, toxicity is more important than temperature. So yeah, we think it's very important that we're reading in what they trust.
I need to attend to this. See, the wind is a bit strong at the moment. I can't get a hold of it. I'm gonna have to cut the stream. It's nice to see Howard in action, and it's nice to share that with you.
Mathematics. I believe mathematics because it's repeatable. I don't believe in the globe because nobody can prove it. Nobody. I offered 10,000 euros on national television in Spain 2 years ago, and I'm still waiting for somebody to make a photo showing curvature. After 2 years. Why? Because we're being lied to. Check for yourselves, because I could be lying also. But like I say, there's a lot of reasons we should be checking and investigating. And we shouldn't believe what the governments throw at us all the time. The histories have been covered up. We're programmed with the television to take on these world events, to go to war for reasons that they want, not that we need. Sure. Thank you for being so receptive. I really appreciate the respectful attitude. Thank you very much. Once you've done the experiments, tell your friends and family how to check for themselves. When there's lots of us, they'll stop fooling us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think there's a Spanish dude here. He might be about to walk away. See if you can catch that. Ah, he's gone now. Spanish. Hey, Jack. We had a bit of problem here. We got
Yeah, I
bit
got
of,
it.
bit of problem with the wind. You found a parking, obviously. No?
No.
So it's still there, the van?
Possible. I managed somehow to change the plate with one
digit different.
With one letter.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it's possible until 2 more hours. It's closed.
Okay.
That's how I was. So if they come, we're gonna pay.
Yeah.
You know. If they come with this bike or Andrea will call you.
Oh, Andrea will call?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Something necessary. But Sven has the key.
Okay.
So if you gotta move.
They will
I
move.
looked around, man. I don't know, 1 mile for sure.
Yeah.
It's
There's no
closed,
parking, yeah.
No parking space,
Yeah.
not even for one car.
Yeah, let alone.
We needed 2 car space, you know. So if I go.
Cool. Okay, mate.
You wanna risk it?
All right. I've been running for about an hour and a half. There's been 30 likes on this stream, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your support. What is the practical example? Dave, are you still going to use drop to justify your FE observations? I'm not sure what that means. Thanks, Seeking, for saying that. I carry this responsibility with aplomb. Yeah. Big shout out to Howard from Nathan, National Memorial Garden.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Nathan.
Off-grid vegan says Las Terra es plana. Las Terra es plana. Oh, that was a while ago.
NASA mentira.
NASA mentira.
La NASA miente. Son falsos.
NASA miente. La Terra es plana. Earth is flat. Is someone here to trigger us?
Probably true. But we also need more scientists to check and stop believing in secondary information. Trolls.
Hey, Tri-D. I see Tri-D was in the chat earlier, or in the chat now. Lovely to have you the other day, Stefan. You guys made a big impression. We love having people who can see this come out and share it. Put their energy out there, contribute to the activism in any way that they can. So we are grateful for that. Dave has just a bunch of unsupported assertions. Mate, the guy called Beyond Practical Examples. So that's what they want, to go beyond practical examples, because they don't want practical examples of a globe spinning. No, we don't need practical examples of that. Just a belief that balls of rock will start to pull each other themselves into some sort of egg shape, and then attract water to them, and have that water do all sorts of odd things that we can't test or have a practical experiment of. It's a shame. I mean, copyright strike of Nintendo, actually. You win them all, Dave. People who don't want to listen have already lost. Maybe that's great. Once we reach a tipping point, when enough people have heard the Earth is flat, it'll become a freight train. It's from Derek O'Hara. Yeah, Ryan from Philippines, so none of the blurf believers. Well, there was some guy who wanted to force Howard to do an observation over 10 miles or 15 kilometers or something on a sort of dark or misty cloudy, kind of inclement day, when we all know that the more moisture there is in the atmosphere, the less far we're going to be able to make observations. But you know, the fact is, we all know we can go and stand on a beach somewhere and look down the coastline at a city that's 20 miles away and see the lights almost playing back over reflecting back over the body of water. So you know, observationally, it's so easy to show that there isn't this curvature. There's no curvature at all to water. We know that, other than a small amount of meniscus. But expand a meniscus to a bowl and see how little is left, and put it in a swimming pool. It's almost not a factor. You know, it's certainly not going to then become something much larger that eventually turns into a sphere. That's complete baloney. So I think it's a stark truth that this obvious inconsistency with the idea of having a ball as a home makes absolutely no sense, and it's logically impossible and physically impossible, practically impossible to experiment, to demonstrate. Just a belief, just an idea that with
one guy,
this and this, with that and this, you can get the other thing, and that's the belief system. And I think people are just I don't know whether, if it becomes a tsunami of people waking up to the flat earth, then does the system have a second gear? They want to change gear and say, okay, now we all know the earth is flat, let's continue to find a way to keep you under control. You've got to imagine that possibility, I do. That, you know, we get to a point where people realize that the earth is flat, and what do they do with it? You know, does the system simply recalibrate around that truth, or does it push back against it like it does at the moment? Time will tell. But whether people then take that truth to mean there's something more about the story of you and I, and something we need to do to be different, to change this world, or because yeah, okay, it's flat, and so what? Just carry on with business as usual. When you drive around these mega cities like Madrid, you see we are in our tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people who are absolutely bought into this reality, or this version of it, this way of it. These people on holiday or whatever, traveling, they just want to go back to their shop, their business, and sorry about the background noise, and carry on life as it is. You know, most people want that comfort. We've been seduced into that comfortable place.
the thing is, when they got married,
so, you know, does the tsunami of flat earth awakening mean a sea change in the vibration here, and a sea change in the way of people that are interested? Because I think that the system is watching everything and seeing everything and expecting to... La Tierra es plana. La Tierra es plana. La Tierra, Earth is flat. Do you speak English?
Yes.
You speak English? Excellent. Where are you guys from? Spain. Okay. All right. So a few years ago, I discovered that if we live on a ball, on a globe, that globe has got to be bending. It's got to have curvature.
No.
Yeah, no?
No, that is because there is something in the middle of the world that makes that we don't fall down.
Okay. But if we live on a ball, yeah, that ball has got, the water has got to be bending, curving like this. Yes, because if you go from... Okay, but do you... Okay. But now, if you have to travel from, say, Portugal or Spain, you travel to Africa on a ship.
Yes.
100 miles.
Yes.
Do you know how much you're going to go down the curve? How much you're going to go down? Do you know?
It depends.
In the latitude.
A lot.
It depends. Because it is, for example, like Cristobal Colon, he went to a boat without knowing what was on the other side. So
yeah, okay. But I'm trying to say about the amount that water bends. See, if we live on a globe, water's got to be bending. But we can't measure any bending. They say 8 inches in a mile squared. Yeah, 8 inches in a mile squared.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
The water should fall.
We can't measure.
Chavales, que ha dicho que no pueden medir la curvatura del agua en la tierra.
Yes, because the water should fall down. You're right.
Well, the water should fall down. I mean, if water always finds its level. If it has to be in a cup or a bowl or a swimming pool or a lake. If you break the lake, the water will go to the next lowest point.
Yeah.
The lowest point on Earth is sea. The sea level. That's the lowest level that all water goes to. And if we can't measure any bending of water because water is always level, then we say the whole Earth is 70% water, therefore 70% level, with some mountains and rocks in between. That's why it's common sense. 8 inches in the mile squared, it's not there. They say 100 miles should be 6,000 feet below the curvature.
I'm going to tell my dad.
You must tell your dad. I mean, we've got some information. Well, my dad doesn't believe me. It took me 45 years to hear this formula.
You've done these missions.
Yeah, I've done this formula and I've looked at it. We've done laser experiments over 20 miles, 30 miles. We can see the laser over the beach. We know that water is level. Aqua is level. Sea is level. If a ship went down, it wouldn't be able to come back up.
La Tierra es plana porque si fuese circular, nos caeríamos los que estamos en abajo se caerían. No habrían humanos en abajo porque se caerían.
Yeah, so it's live. I'm live on YouTube right now. You're live, yeah. My channel is called Trinity 4. Trinity 4. And we can talk some more.
Yo quiero.
Yeah, Trinity 4. You can see yourself on YouTube. All right, you can subscribe. All right, well, let me give you some information. Let me tell you that water is level. There's formulas on there that prove that.
Can you put your YouTube channel?
Yeah, okay. Can you spell T-R-I?
T-R-I?
N-I-T-Y.
Trinity, dear.
Trinity 4, the number 4.
Trinity 4.
4, and it's just look by channel, search by channel.
That one.
And you'll see me live. You'll see you live. Yeah. Yeah, that's you. This is a great app you can get to find out more about the earth, how it works, the truth about the water. Good luck, brothers. You are the creator or the creation. You are divine. You are meant to be at the top. Don't let the government tell you that you're monkeys from evolution. That's not true. That's not true. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias.
Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao. Well, they just made my day.
Good.
That one student there was like, absolutely. He's like, oh my God, there is no curvature. There's no curvature to be measured. But there's some people who will want to cling to the idea that, oh, you can't measure it and you can't see it and on a different weather and all this sort of crap. But if there's an equal amount of curvature near or there or thereabouts,
it should be repeatable.
You should take a 2-meter ship and see it go over the horizon, and always at the same distance. And we should all know what distance a 2-meter ship should disappear over the horizon.
I use the argument that Fata Morgana is reproducible.
Fata Morgana.
Yeah, the inferior mirage, the atmospheric conditions, they are reproducible. But if you go on a clear day and they're not there, then you know that that's an optical illusion. You know it isn't curvature.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So curvature hasn't been proven, but all the optical effects have been.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people who take those pictures of the horizon on one day and from exactly the same position on another day and see a very different distance into the horizon.
Exactly.
That's all to do with
the angular resolution of their camera, the atmospheric conditions,
moisture in the
atmospheric conditions, and also perspective. Obviously, if you go a little bit higher, you'll see a little bit more detail.
I love getting the students though, because they are
they're the
fertile young minds
they
that
can
have a whole
it.
life of spreading this truth.
Go viral in university.
Yeah. American Vintage Camp. Let's see. Maybe they speak American.
I've only got in English or Spanish. Which do you speak better?
English. All right.
I know it sounds crazy,
How you doing?
so we're not asking anyone to believe us. We're actually saying that there's a few experiments that you should make yourself and see if you get the same results as us or if you get different results. Because when we do an experiment with a modern camera and do a video of a star or even better a planet, and then watch the video in slow motion, we don't find distortion in the twinkles, we find geometric patterns.
Don't forget to hit the like, thumbs up,
not 20 trillion miles
share this content, spread the good word,
this big bang, where we're going
especially if you know Spanish people. We've got some good Spanish content here.
Kilometers an hour. Oh, sorry, that's
no, sorry, 660,000 kilometers an hour. We're going around the sun supposedly at 100,000 kilometers an hour, miles an hour. Well, if that was true, how come the stars haven't moved at all? We still see Scorpio with the claws, we still see Aquarius with water, Orion still in line with the pyramids of Giza. So 10,000 years of historical evidence in the Egyptian Demora calendar, the Aztecs, the Mayan calendars prove that nothing's moved. Cameras show that they're not that far away. A thermometer shows that moonlight chills water. Yeah, now you'd think that moonlight being supposedly a reflection of sunlight would be warm or neutral, but no, it chills water. So it's a feminine energy in this atmosphere, this atom here. Check for yourself with a thermometer, it's so easy to prove that we're being lied to. And no matter the distance at sea level, we never lose any landscape behind curvature, no matter the distance. Maybe Earth's flat, I don't know. I just know that mathematics doesn't lie. Mathematics says how much curve it should be. But it is. Stars are not that far away. They take 100 million of worldwide taxes to go to Hollywood. 100 million a day goes to Hollywood. 100 million a day, 40 million a year. So it's not just the big money. Hold that just a second. They also put chemical in our food, chemical in our blood, chemical in the sky, and tell us to trust them. The government trust them. That's not science, that's religion. We need to do science and make sure that there's no danger to all this stuff. Yeah. We're in a crazy world.
La Terra è plana. Earth is flat. La Terra è plana. La Terra è plana. Some information. La Terra è plana. Some information. Earth is flat. Science is mistaught. Yeah, brother. Globe lie. Can you say globe lie like that?
Globe lie.
Thank you. Globe lie. The earth is flat. The globe is a lie. Le globlo a lie. Hey, brother. It takes a long time to work it out. You got to think. Do the experiments for yourself. La terra plana. La terra plana. La terra plana. You guys want some Spanish? La terra plana. Earth is flat. Some information?
No, gracias.
You're welcome. Thanks for acknowledging me, my fellow human. La terra plana. La terra plana. Selfie.
First, was getting out of bed. Infórmate sobre la modificación artificial del clima. Podamos explicarlo todo. Gracias a la ignorancia.
La terra plana. Earth is flat. You speak English?
Yes, I do.
Oh, hi.
How you doing?
Sound American, actually.
I am. Very American.
Whereabouts?
Michigan.
All right. In the military?
No.
No, just on holiday or studying?
On holiday.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Michigan.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
What are you guys doing?
We're traveling around Europe, actually, on a tour to speak to people, try and get off the internet, because one of the most censored subjects on the internet now is the flat Earth. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of the flat Earth theory.
Okay.
Aside, speculation. That's about it.
Okay. Have you considered that it's possible that we don't have, because we're pretty serious people, and we've been going around for a few years, like looking at all the evidence that we can find, scientific experiments and so on, to prove that we live on a spinning ball. And actually, we can't. We rely mainly, almost solely, on the evidence given to us by NASA and other space agencies.
Legitimate enough?
I used to think so, actually. Up until the age of 46, I was a believer in the moon landings, but I used to only watch the documentaries provided to me by the state broadcaster, the BBC, National Geographic, that kind of thing, right? But when you start to look at other documentaries, like A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, that one shows you NASA's own footage of them obviously faking being sort of halfway between the Earth and the Moon. It shows you them clearly not being able to get the lunar lander to sort of control itself here, fly at all properly here on Earth. They could never get it to stay in the air for more than 30 seconds, let alone fly it under any sort of control. And that was only the chassis of the lunar lander, let alone the entire thing.
Okay.
Then you look at the photos that we were provided of the moon landings up close under high resolution, high definition. We can see that these things are just like kitchen towel rolls and tin foil, not even well stuck together, and so on.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of evidence that this was all staged. The entire moon landings were staged. The squabble between Russia, or the space race between Russia and America, also staged, like the Cold War, to give people a sense that we have an enemy, and that enemy will keep us honest. Because if America were faking the moon landings, wouldn't the Russians be the first to say, you never went?
What is the enemy? Misinformation? Or just...
Well, I mean, the enemy in this context would be to say that if America's enemy was Russia, and America were lying or faking the space race, the Russians wouldn't let them get away with it.
Yeah.
But both the Russians and the Americans were sort of having you're in front now, and now I'm in front, and so on, and we'll take the glory for this, and you can take the glory for the first man, and all that sort of thing. But when we look at the spacesuit, for example, they never once put a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber on Earth. They never once tested the spacesuit, have never yet put a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber. Why? Because we cannot make this kind of technology.
So what about the International Space Station?
All right. Well, when we start to unpick that, we discover that we've never seen any of the components built and put together here on Earth in any kind of test way, other than in the swimming pool that they do their testing in.
Yeah.
Then when we look at the spacewalks, we often find bubbles rising from the helmets, and the suits of the spacewalk look exactly the same, identical, under a 2 or 3 bar pressure in the swimming pool as they do in the vacuum of space, which should be pulling on the spacesuit. But yet in theory, they use exactly the same spacesuit, but they're very different conditions. So when people have analyzed these up close, they can see harnesses on the guys when they're indoors doing like a zero gravity show for the camera. They either use the Vomit Comet, that plane that simulates zero G for 30 or 60 seconds, or they use harnesses, and we can see the harnesses showing if we look very closely and analyze the footage. So it seems to me quite clear that the International Space Station is a hoax, all of it designed in 3 or 4 different stages, and then put together to provide this total image of a rocket leaving Earth, men then walking through an airlock into another craft, which we've never seen, and then doing all these things up in outer space. People then they complete the lie by designing some technology that can fly through the sky at known intervals and give people a sense that they're looking at the ISS, sort of tracking it through the sky. But I say to people, look, if it was 250 miles away, as they say, traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, it would be so tiny and so fast, no one would be able to see it at all. And it certainly wouldn't be reflecting the sort of light required for us to be able to see that glare from 250 miles away. I mean, the city of New York, for example, from 250 miles away would be invisible pretty much on any given day. That's a whole city, let alone a tiny little aircraft-sized spacecraft.
My thing is that it's, I'm not a scientist, but there's a lot of people who there's a lot of great scientists who are now astronauts who have put in the work and have gone through countless of scientific experiments, and they've worked their asses off for 100 years, and people are still wanting to go into space. Yeah. And I don't believe that the institution would exist had this been a complete sham from the beginning.
That's great thinking. Can I offer you this as a consideration to go parallel with that? We have a lot of big religions on Earth. You might have heard of Christianity and Islam and these religions, right? So these religions are taught by men and women who absolutely accept that the knowledge that's been passed down to them from their forefathers is true and repeatable, and therefore they will continue to push that ideal without there ever necessarily being like personal evidence for yourself.
So NASA is a society of lies, or what you're saying, drawing a correlation between Abrahamic religion and science.
Well, all religions require a degree of faith, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that the two are the same.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
For me, one is definitely more, at least more empirically legitimate than the other.
Okay, but the parallel I draw is that in science, most young scientists today, astrophysicists and so on, build all their ideas about how the universe works based on some very important foundational theories. Theories like gravity and relativity, and how the bending of time-space and all of this sort of thing can make things happen. Now, the bending of time-space and the theory that because something falls to the floor, let's call it gravity, it's now going to attract water to the underside of a ball, is a theory which we can't prove, but we accept it because we want to get ahead in the science, and we use that as our, well, this is the best that science has got, is that we've got this theory of gravity. If it improves on something else, then fine. But at the moment, I'm going to take that as a real fact. But you and I can't actually test that. So that's still theory, and it's still, to me, far too foundational upon which this idea that, globes can go around a sun and be attracted to that sun and stay in some sort of rigid formation for millions of years simply by this attraction of gravity.
What are you guys doing to debunk the theories, aside from,
Okay, well, activism like this, yeah. Okay, well, there's a number of things. I mean, for me, firstly, it was that it's more about debunking the globe initially, because I'm not so certain about exactly the nature of the world that I live in. I can't be sure anymore. I used to be a believer in science like globes and gravity and relativity and aliens and all of this outer space stuff. I used to be a believer in that. Now I'm not. I can't test that for myself, so I try and stick with things that I can test. And can I prove that I live on a globe? No, I can't. I have to take NASA's word for it and their imagery. Can I do an experiment that shows that water is level? Yes, I can. And I've done experiments over 10 and 20 miles where I can see lights on a beach at, say, 20 miles away, which according to them should be some 200 feet below the sort of sphericity or the roundness or the rotundity of the globe. Because if you're standing on one point of a globe, trigonometry would say clearly that you're looking out in a straight line like this, and the globe is dropping away from you, and the rate at which the globe drops away from you is 8 inches in the mile squared.
So all the science, all the trigonometry, everything that we've been taught is wrong.
No, I mean, but we've never been taught this formula for the curvature, and I was 46 before I first heard this formula. It's 8 inches in the mile squared. So 8 inches in the mile squared is 800 inches after 10 miles, and it's 6,000 feet after 100 miles. Now, the U.S. military has a railgun, a weapon. It's a Mark 15 gun that shoots in a straight line using a laser to paint a ship. So from one ship to another, obviously the same water level, and they can fire targets at 80 and 100 miles away. And there's no, the projectile is not dropping over any curve, and the gunner is seeing through infrared, is seeing the target at 100 miles. So for us, we know that at 100 miles, like the Suez Canal, 120 miles, we know that those things are leveled. But when you unpick the ball and say, well, it's actually not as big as they keep reminding you. They try and tell you you're small and it's big. Well, actually, the measurement over 100 miles is quite significant on this Earth. And as I said, there should be 6,000 feet of curvature in order to get all the way around this 4,000 mile radius that we live on. So for me, the science that we've been given has been built, as I said, on a foundation of theories that can't be proven. Water is level for me, and that all gases and liquids tend to find their buoyancy or their level point depending on the environment they're in. Like water, oil will float on water, and noble gases, helium, hydrogen, and so on, will float up. And if they were in a containment cylinder, you would find them coming to a level or strata. So to me, everything is strata. As you get into the ocean, it gets denser in strata, and those strata are almost, well, they're like horizontal or parallel with each other. But if we're meant to be living on this 8 inches per mile squared curvature, then those strata are actually, in theory, meant to be bending. And what they've done cleverly is they said, like a ship is going over the horizon when you see it going off in the distance. But they don't get you to think, but those clouds that are touching the horizon horizon too, are they bending around the curve, or is that simply a matter of the perspective, drawing those clouds and the water to a single line and pulling them together?
Well, this is an interesting theory, and I have to go. But maybe you should join NASA to inform them and to correct whatever.
Well, you see, if NASA, do you trust the government? Is that you? Are you someone who trusts the government?
I trust the people who have
office
put their skin in the game, so to speak.
Did you
inform the public?
Did you have the opportunity yet to look into the red flag we call 9/11?
What about
the false flag? I should say. Well, that 9/11 was not done by 19 Muslims, but it was more like an internal plot to cause harm on America.
Well, this is all speculation.
Well, have you heard of Building 7 on 9/11?
Yes, I've heard of Building 7.
Okay, so Building 7 comes down in about 7 seconds, and it's a steel frame building of 50 stories tall. That's physically impossible for a building to be collapsed like that, a steel building, just for all the girders, for all the structure that sits underneath the 50 floors, just to give away and crumble into its own footprint. In reality, the only way you can do that is by a controlled demolition.
Well, I wouldn't say that the government is completely honest on all things. And no one should really take the word of the government at face value.
The Vietnam War. They started the Vietnam War based on a lie. The Gulf of Tonkin affair has been admitted by the military.
Yeah, we know this to be. Somewhat true.
I suggest to you that actually we live in a world in which each of us is controlled by some sort of central command, and that once upon a time that central command was the Vatican. Then they used the royals and banking as a means of that, and then they came up with this idea of science to diminish people and to demean them, and so the science of evolution, the science of the Big Bang, says that it tries to rubbish the idea that this place has been created for us, and that we are meant to be at the pinnacle of this creation. It's more than likely in our minds that, yes, we are lucky to be here, we evolved from something and we're at the pinnacle of that creation, rather than we've been broken from our height of the divine beings that we truly are. The divine being that you truly are has been overlaid with this Darwinian idea of as I say, you coming from slime, from a Big Bang, and from monkeys and out of Africa and all that stuff. When in fact you might have been created to have a divine experience.
My thing is, my personal opinion is, I'm a see it to believe it guy.
Yeah.
So I hear you, and it isn't.
Now you're going to question.
It isn't the first time a metaphysical discussion like this is crossed my path. But I'm.
Yeah, that's all right. I was an atheist, by the way. I was an atheist for most of my adult life, and then I had a DMT experience 4 years ago, and that transformed everything for me, because I found out that this is all some sort of electromagnetic soup that we live in. We're electromagnetic higher beings, or some kind of higher being, and that there's no death. I was an atheist. Like I said, I thought there was no death. I mean, there was just death. There was this life and then this death. But actually, we're part of something much more important, and we return to something of a love and a grandeur that is beyond our human comprehension. I truly believe with all my heart now that we've been set into this place, this Sodom and Gomorrah place, which is riddled with poison, riddled with the devil, if you like, not to get too biblical, but riddled with darkness. And our mission, if we want to choose it, is to take the path of the light. And we will never do that seldom do that while we believe that we came, this is just some lucky random kind of party, and we should just make the most of it while we're
maybe
here.
We need some people to lead the way.
My brother, I'll give you this information.
Okay, thank you though. I don't want to
8 inches in the mile squared. Think about that. That's a lot of mileage. That's a lot of curvature.
All right.
Hey, shake my hand, man. My name's Dave.
Dave Ramses.
Ramses, nice to meet you. Ramses. There you go.
Oh, he's gonna think a little bit.
Yeah, I hope Ramses, it takes time to come
next time he punches one of us, he's gonna be like...
Yeah, head scratcher.
He's not going away.
Yeah. They're not going away. Well, it was nice to speak to someone in English today. La terra plana. La terra plana. La terra plana. La Terra Plana. So this is Plaza Mayor. Plaza Mayor, Madrid. Some serious crest there. And an interesting clock up there. I'll take you to it. There it is. That's all right. Do you speak English?
Yes.
You're good. I want to give you some information before you go. Yeah, that's interesting. I think it might just be a weather vane. See if I can give this lady some information. Excuse me, ma'am. Some information? La Terra Plana. Earth is flat. Want to take this? Oh well. It's Dr. LA here. Thanks for stopping by and for your support. Hey Roxanne. Is that Drew? Hello buddy. Thanks for all your support, my friend. Means so much to me. That's because I'm a foreigner. Thanks. Espacio es false. Espacio es false. Espacio es false. Yeah, who's that saying? The seed. You listen, the seed has been planted. Yeah. Thank you. Heavy metal. Next one, felt a little bit ropey around that one. Ramses, yes. I felt a little bit kind of rusty. I think it's a little disconcerting to be, so trying to talk in a foreign language, talk to people in foreign. See the lovers coming here to have their happy snaps taken for the Facebook. A little bit of Howard.
We've been told that Venus, so that's why I'm agreeing with people. We believe what we've been told, but what we can test contradicts what we're being told. So are you going to believe your senses that can be confirmed with a thermometer, confirmed with a camera? You have to make the experiment to know. So you make the experiment with stricter conditions. That's science, yeah? You keep improving the conditions until you're sure. Because science is supposed to be repeatable, so the experiment. If you get the same results time and time again, and you know I've had the same results, then you'd be like, you know what? I heard about that moonlight shows too.
I heard about a flat Earth experiment that happened with some lasers. What's the story with that?
It's called a ring gyroscope, and that's extremely sensitive device, and it was used. The guys who did the test, I think, were sincerely trying to prove whether or not it was the Earth that was moving, or rather, they were trying to show, I think, that the Earth isn't turning, because if it's turning like this, and you know how a gyroscope works, obviously, you spin it up and it locks itself in the space, to the level that you've spun it up on. Hey, so normally at ground level on a plane or whatever. Now, if you fly over, say, the bulge or curve or something, or if you dip down, then the altimeter or the gyroscope is going to stay in a rigid position like this. That's what they were looking to do, is say, well, we can take a very sensitive device, set it up, and show that it's never going to tip out of alignment with the turning Earth, because it should stay in its rigid. Well, it did. It stayed in rigid alignment, but it also picked up a movement in the environment. And now people are using that, and the video tried to say that this is proof that we live on a spinning globe. But the movement that they provided was only like in the few miles an hour, nothing like the 1,000 miles an hour that we're meant to be spinning. So I say to people, if we look back at the interferometer experiments of the late 1800s, we'll find that Michelson and Morley and Gale those best scientists of the world were finding that there is this sort of turning of something. Now, old science used to call it the ether, and it was the ether that was agreed to be turning at a few degrees per, or 15 degrees per hour, or a few miles per hour. I'm not absolutely sure exactly how it pans out, but they decided to bury those experiments, and they decided to get rid of the ether and say the ether is no longer a force. This is Einstein decided to get rid of the ether.
Because no one could prove that it existed.
Well, perhaps. I mean, but that's because our science doesn't want to look into the fourth phase of matter, which is like plasma.
Anyone could have looked into if there was an ether and came up with proof, or
well,
no one found any, but they did find equations that worked for all of our.
Oops, sorry about that. I agree with you that doesn't mean it's a yeah. Okay.
Is there a reservoir?
Well, of course, if the Earth is flat, then there is a massive conspiracy, because there's no way you could hide that by accident. It has to be intentional. Well, I suggest to people that once they've established this, they will realize, it took my wife a few years, but to realize that actually there's something more important going on, something more fundamental. It's not just about our day-to-day lives, but it's about perhaps a spiritual or a soul journey that we're here on. And that whole thing, the soul journey, the heaven, the kind of God idea, has been diminished by religion, and diminished even further by science. To say that you come from an evolution, there's no kind of special creation, there's no special place for you. This is not your universe. This is
so flat Earth kind of works quite well with all the other conspiracies, really, doesn't it? I mean, like evolution is a hoax.
Yeah.
Gravity is a hoax. I mean, the globe. Sorry.
That the moon is a rock.
Is the idea still that it moves upwards at 9.2?
No, that's disinfo that's put out by. No one in the flat Earth, seriously in the flat Earth, would say that they know the extremities of our world.
Right.
We know this for sure, and that is that water is level.
Yeah.
And we're told that we can measure it over any distance, that we can possibly fire a laser. We show that water is level. Never going to form a. We have to take that on the basis of belief. So
it depends what scale you're looking at. Obviously, if you're looking like over here, if you're triangulating things over this sort of distance, then obviously it's going to be flat. But if you're triangulating these distances around the world, then they won't be flat.
Well, do you know what the formula is for the curvature of the ball? I didn't know it.
I'm sure if I worked my way through my memory.
We were never taught this. I went back through all I was taught. In order to come to acknowledge or say to my family and friends that I say that the Earth is flat, I had to go back and look at all the science that I was taught.
For the equation of the curvature of the sphere.
Well, the equation for the formula for the sphere, 24,900 miles in circumference, they say it's 8 inches in the mile squared. Now, if you apply that to our Earth, it means that over 10 miles you're looking at 60 feet of curvature. Over 100 miles, 6,000 feet of curvature. This is their maths.
I work with kilometers now.
Right, well, let me put it like this then. At 15 Ks, there's 20 meters of curvature. At 15 Ks, we know we can see beaches at 15 Ks away. And we can see all of the beaches.
Yeah, as an average. Okay. But, I mean, obviously the Earth has different, like if you stood in most parts of Australia where I'm from, you wouldn't get that curvature. Australia's very flat. But when you factor in the whole shape, and then of course you account for things like the bulging from moving around the sun.
But Australia, if it's true, I agree with you. Australia is very flat. But if it's true,
aren't we?
You don't exist.
Aren't we? No, aren't we fakers? Because Australia's not real.
That's the sort of disinfo. Yeah, that's disinfo put out to.
It's all disinformation to make us look stupid, so people can't take the inquiry seriously.
But I'm from South Africa, and they fly planes to Australia via Dubai, which is up into the northern hemisphere. Makes absolutely no sense. But on a flat Earth map, you'll see that's almost a straight line. So no, we know Australia's there, but I want to come back to.
It makes sense for like a few reasons why they would take that path. They're not always taking the straight line. Don't you have a photo of it?
Yeah, we do here somewhere. On that flyer I gave you, we've got a. Oh, here you go. Look here. The South America, Australia, that would make a lot of sense, right? If you were trying to.
No, we don't have planes that can take that many people across that vast of a distance. It's much safer to travel close to the coast where you can be rescued or where you can emergency land. I'm not an aviation expert, but that trip is a lot harder.
Okay. All right. What if I was to offer you this is a flat Earth projection and how those flight plans look? See, if we live in a world in which profit is king, then I would say to you that they don't care so much about flying you over the water. They're more about flying you the quickest and cheapest route to get you to your destination.
But it's not good for the business if their planes crash. Obviously, they have to look after people. Otherwise, they'll lose the competition. So, yes, even in a money-making world, which I agree with you, they're still going to take the best thing for their passengers.
Well, for me, I mean, like if I was flying to Australia, I would want the quickest flight, not to be made to fly to Dubai, get off the plane there, and fly, on another plane.
Sure, but that just comes into infrastructure. Dubai built the biggest airport because there was no other reason for planes to land.
All right. Well, I won't convince you on that, but it's fair to say that we use this. What is the United Nations logo? That's their logo.
Right.
This map here, this flat Earth projection. So we use that and plot flights over that, and 9 times out of 10.
They couldn't plot a globe, could they? They couldn't use a globe for their. If they wanted a circular icon of the world, they wouldn't use a globe because then it wouldn't show the whole thing.
Yeah, but
so
if it was
to show it in a format where all the countries are displayed. It's not a conspiracy. It's just that they can't show a globe.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll end up with, oh yeah, this is the United Nations logo. But obviously, it's just America. They can't do that. Well, they don't want to.
This is some globes or blue marbles provided to us by NASA, right?
Yeah, from a close distance, so they're stitched together. Yeah.
All right. That's what they. Okay. That's what
it makes
I
sense,
used.
doesn't it? I mean, if you're looking at a ping pong ball close up.
Yeah.
And your photo can only take this much at a time because it's orbiting.
If you understand the way that they did this, they've taken satellites, flown over Earth, stitched those together. I used to know all of that too. But what would your explanation be for the size of America in 2012 versus the size of America in 2013? See how it shrunk in size. Now, these two globes are exactly the same size in the image provided, and we're pretty much on the same angle looking at the same continent.
Right.
But one of it's almost 50% larger.
But if it was a conspiracy and they were making these up, but they still wanted to maintain that America was the same size, then wouldn't it be the same? Wouldn't you think everything they'd be trying to do would trying to be avoiding?
Yeah, or perhaps these are artists.
Scenario?
Yeah, but perhaps these are artists' renditions. Yeah,
right. That's a fair enough assumption because they're working with photos to stitch together an image. Of course, they can't do it.
Yeah.
If you get further enough away from a ping pong ball, then you're going to be able to see the sphere.
Yeah. So in
like you can with all the other planets.
So in 1968, 1972, we went to the moon a bunch of times, and so we were well far enough away from the Earth 50 years ago in order to take photos of the Earth in space.
Yeah.
You'd think that we can land on asteroids today. We would easily be able to fly a camera out back to the moon, take still shots, video shots all day long. We could be streaming the Earth's turning in space. That shouldn't be any problem at all.
No,
but
it's not,
NASA,
but there's no reason to do it.
Why not?
Because it's so expensive to get anything out to the moon that they'd never do it just to prove flat Earthers wrong.
Well, it's not about proving flat Earth is wrong. It's not about that. It's about evidencing the claim. Remember,
like a space cam.
Very few people.
Like a live space cam that everyone could
Well, Elon Musk can put a car up in space, so that a boy like
Could you
that
not see
has
the
got
Earth
money.
curvature from that video?
You don't think it's possible if they're hoaxing us? They could do that in a studio, or use CG, use like a fisheye lens, because that's oftentimes what they do. They'll take a balloon up, use a fisheye lens, and it rounds the horizon from any angle.
Sometimes it's also the housing because of the conditions up there.
All right.
They can't. Like,
so flat earthers or people who are trying to review this and the science for themselves have taken cameras up that aren't fisheye lenses and as high as we can go.
This guy built his rocket, didn't he? Didn't a flat earther build a rocket to try and see the curvature himself?
Yeah, I mean that's not true. No, that's more. That's a system. maintaining its control. No, I mean, remember, there's a lot of, if this is true, there's a lot of counterintelligence. There's a lot of disinformation that's been put out there. So we know that with the Felix Baumgartner jump, the Red Bull jump, we can tell that when you take a look at the camera from inside his cupola, that the Earth is flat from where he's jumping.
Right.
So, no, it's very easy this to be hoaxed.
Why do other planets look round to us then?
I've asked them this.
Oh, well, can I offer this as an answer?
Please.
Can I offer this as an answer? If let's just assume that they are round for the sake of argument, like a billiard ball is round, a soccer ball is round, but that doesn't make the pitch round. So we can't jump to the conclusion that because there's brown orbs in the sky, we're on an orb. That's a big leap. I mean, 100 years ago, very few people on Earth thought that the Earth was a globe. It was really the argument was put to bed with NASA. So now it's important that we're able to interrogate NASA and be sure that they're not part of the military deceiving us.
One of the first people to get up there. And their arch enemies at the time, the Russians, were in on the hoax. Were they?
Yeah. There is no, it's worth knowing as a takeaway that the idea of an enemy in Russia, good luck, an enemy in Russia is part of the dialectic. It's called the Hegelian dialectic. Keep people divided and use that as a means of control, because people will say for sure, yes, if America were lying to us about going to the moon, the Russians would be the first to say. But if it's true that the Earth is flat, then Gaddafi should have been the first to say. And people like that never speak out. And the system is in control of all governments. There is no government that operates without the central command. That's for sure. Even North Korea. They create
North Korea is in on the hoax. It's like it's been a state that's been set up to look like an enemy.
Yes. To keep an enemy alive, because it justifies ongoing spending. It justifies ongoing control over the movement and the freedoms of the human species. Absolutely.
Right. Except we've got the most movement and freedom that we've ever had.
Do you believe that?
On an individual scale.
That's so far from the truth, my friend. You know, the number of papers and forms and things you have to buy, licenses you have to buy to do any kind of work, to park anywhere, to go anywhere, you need your tickets and papers.
You couldn't just do any kind of work back then.
When these buildings were built,
you couldn't read or something.
Well, when these buildings were built, we've been traveling around Europe and seeing some of the most grand architecture built by people before the invention of the university.
Right. Yeah.
So how were these people educating themselves if they didn't have that kind of structure of education? They were building magnificent buildings and doing magnificent medicine.
Tutors were the main way that it would happen. Since way back. What's his name? Alexander the Great was tutored by Aristotle. Who was the guy at the time.
Okay, but before you had to have a degree in engineering, people were building these fantastic buildings. So no, just because we have a system of educating us.
But there was the public weren't building them. It was like a few people knew how to build cathedrals. Now I can look up, like for instance, the internet, and maybe not freely get information on what the engineering principles are to keep up a cathedral. And I could never do that in the past because it was like religious information. They kept it secret, so the cathedrals were more impressive.
Do you know when at last, you probably won't know this, when the last cathedral was built in the United Kingdom?
No.
It's about 100 years ago, and we don't build them today because we cannot build them like they did then. So we don't have the skills. We don't have the ability, we don't have the technical know-how, and yet we have all this education, we have all this technology, we have all this machinery, and we don't build like they did.
Where was the last one built? The last, you mean like Gothic cathedral?
No, I mean like a Canterbury Cathedral, like a proper cathedral. You know, that defines a city, needs to have a cathedral in it.
Sure.
Well, we don't build like that. We don't even build cities anymore. I mean, our entire world has kind of become so simplified. Our buildings are smaller than they used to be. Look at the grandness around you here.
Yeah, but that's not...
In Spain, in Italy. No, I think it's just us answering the point that, you know, we're not actually at the highest of humans' intelligence, and thinking that because we have well-educated professors,
we have a well-educated populace by all measures. Like the average person here, most of the people that you see in this courtyard would have had at least high school education.
Okay.
So I mean, a fair amount of the travellers would have had uni degrees.
Yeah, I think the point...
do that here 100 years ago, and you just pick out people that had all been to high school, or 200 years, or 300 years. You can just pick out people that.
But I guess it depends.
Had an education.
All right. Well, I think it depends on what we decree or agree is progress. You know, for me, the more we move away from nature and the more we become divided in these cities and the more we're dependent on the man to provide us with our food and our infrastructure and so on, the less we are with nature. So people are far more likely today to choose like digital implants, you know, get some sort of robotic arm rather than be, you know, moving closer to nature. So the human story, in my view, is getting tougher. It's getting harder to make a living, to have a home over your head. The amount of taxes and banking and stuff that we got going on, that doesn't mean freedom. It doesn't mean freedom. Not to me anymore. I don't think that we're free.
Well, you maybe, but like what?
Okay, no, you don't.
50 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get a job in the field I'm going into.
Uh-huh.
Like I wouldn't be allowed to do that. I would have to marry, stay at home, look after kids. Is that not freedom?
Well, I guess
And
I guess that's
it's still in some parts of the world. It's still happening, and women aren't independent.
Well, once upon a time, none of us had to work to live well. You know, there's enough resources on Earth for everybody to eat well and have what they need.
There's not enough resources in the wild to feed as many people as there are.
How many people are on Earth, do you think?
Okay, well, I've heard the number 7 billion.
7 billion, okay. Now, well, no, I'd accept that number 7 billion, but here's the fact that you can also hopefully go and check for yourself, but that the state of Texas is 180 billion acres, the state of Texas.
Right.
Which means with that number of people, you could give everyone 25 acres, every man, woman, and child, 25 acres, and we could live in.
You can fit the whole population on Tasmania, the little island on the bottom of Australia. But you can't feed everyone there.
No, of course not. But Texas is a minuscule part of this Earth, right?
Sure.
So imagine if we had to spread out over the whole Earth. There's plenty of resources. All I'm saying is that one of the lies of the deceptions of the system is to make humans feel like they're the problem and that there isn't enough resources. But as we travel around Europe and I travel around the UK and South Africa and so on, all I see is open spaces. People being corralled into these mega cities.
That's not necessarily resources that we can use. You can't use most of the desert in Australia. You can't use a lot of Texas for anything other than building a house on or moving cattle on because it's just...
Well, I mean, there's different, so there's different parts of the Earth that can bring different resources, you know, can grow different things in a different place and so on. I don't think so. I think that people are being cajoled and coerced or, like you said, feel empowered to be, to take on a mortgage, to go and get that big job, and maybe even, and I'm not saying this is you personally, but even give up the most important thing that a woman is here for, and that is motherhood. You know, Mother Nature wants her females or her female plants or a female human to be willing to be the progeny or the progenitors of new children, of new life. But nowadays, women are far more bought into this masculine idea of climbing up the corporate ladder, getting the biggest salary, you know, and
because we're treated as an equal rather than we're only here to be a mother.
Yeah, but it's an equal in a patriarchal system. You see, we are all caught up in this patriarchal system that puts the man or the male energy ahead of the female energy. So we want to see a balancing of the masculine and the feminine, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We want to see that. And I'm all for the empowerment of everybody. Everybody is equal and everybody should have an equal thing. But what they've cleverly done is they've gotten rid of the chains that they used to put the slaves in and given us these suits and ties and official-looking diplomas that we can then put on our little cubicle, our little rat box that we're going to go and work in for 30 or 40 years, pay in all these taxes, pay towards a retirement.
You don't have to do that. Like, if you want to cut the easy way out, then sure, do that.
I mean, but people, like, you don't have to stay in the cities. There's a trend towards cities. But the reason that they work is because raising the amount of people raises the carrying capacity of the earth. And then each person has a responsibility to make that carrying capacity greater. And it's easiest to do that when you're in a city because you don't have to feed yourself or you don't have to make your own clothes.
Would you say the same thing to an elephant or a lion that was being put into a zoo?
Well, no, but they're put into centres for repopulation all the time. Like, some zoos, okay, are just prisons, as you might say, for the animals.
We're not slaves, we're not being put into anything.
Well, that's what I used to think, but now I've had this opportunity to see how deceptive this entire system is. I realize it is a slave camp. Yes, they've cleverly, dressed it up as a degree in pharmacology or doctorate in this or whatever, but actually you're still then going to simply contribute all your life energy into a system that has not got your best interests at heart. It doesn't want you, which is why they teach you atheistic ideas like evolution. They don't want you to ever realize your true divinity, and your true divinity is hidden by this mask of we come from monkeys, there is no God, and all this kind of stuff. You guys obviously don't believe in a God or anything like that.
Well, I believe in evolution.
You believe in evolution. Now, I'm trying to step away from beliefs, because beliefs are like a religious thing, hey? So belief in gravity and evolution is like an idea that we cling to, we can't prove.
I believe in it because I've seen I've seen its process.
We've never seen a half man, half monkey, right?
No, that's not how it works. You never get a fossil of a half goat, half sheep.
Well, you don't, because goats don't become sheep. I know of speciation. I know of minor variations that'll happen to a species. I got no issue with that. But my issue now is that evolution.
That is evolutionary.
Well, speciation is not. Okay, but for me, it's almost like when they say, water's. I won't go into that. But for me, because there is a missing link, there is no definite bone structures. We can say. That was the monkey. That was the monkey that was almost a man, and then there's the man.
Well, we can see changes in hips from our common ancestor with chimpanzees. So we have a common ancestor with them. That had that particular species. It's not a half chimp, half person. That particular species had hips built for walking on all fours, and then we saw in evolution of our species and the ones before that, in the Homo genus, we saw the hips move up as they started to walk, and then they started making tools once they had their hands free. Like, we see this happen. We see animals, we see the initial stage of an animal, you see it in fossils from millions of years ago, and then you see the evolution of that into modern day species. We do see that. You see it all the time. Speciation is the first step of that.
Okay. Do you think it's possible to see some evidence buried in the ground,
right,
and for you and I to have slightly different interpretations about the evidence that we see?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. Because this is, I think, what happens is in science is that they say we see this and it means that thing happened. Now, and you and I have to simply accept that.
They're saying this model of what we think happened fits with what we say. Just like you guys do. When you find information that fits your hypothesis, you tell people about it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's how the globe is sort of built on this. If we see this, it means that. We see the sun. If you ask a lot of scientists, what is your best evidence or experiment, rather, that Earth is turning? And they'll say the sun moving over my head. Well, that's not in itself. You and I can both observe the sun and come up with different theories as to what's going on. One could say it's spinning Earth, and the other could say it's a moving sun.
Well, most of the reason they say that is because they see other planets turning.
Okay.
And we seem to be part of a set of these, and they all seem to be turning. So it seems natural to assume.
Yeah, but it's also
like the most likely thing that ours would also be turning and would also be a sphere.
But you're accepting this assumption, and what we've done is we've reverse engineered what we've seen and said, now this fits this idea of Darwin. So I'm going to suggest to you that it's possible that we've been given a different story. And why I know you guys are not going to accept what I'm saying today, because I was a hardcore atheist. My dying mother, 2011, couldn't get me to accept that there was a God, right? Then I had an ayahuasca experience. Have you come across ayahuasca yet? You've heard of it? It's the pineal gland, the DMT. Yeah. So in 5 minutes, at the age of 46, I went from an atheist to a believer in there being us being part of some higher power. That was what it needed for me.
Why isn't evolution part of that? Why can't it be then?
Well, because the evolution says that it's random, that it's lucky chance, rather than created on purpose.
No, it's not random. It's just some things work better than others, and then some the mutations themselves are random. but the traits that you see in species are not random. Those are because of the environment.
Okay, well, I see now is I see perfection in all of nature. Nature is perfect in the way it forms its flowers, its petals, and so on. There's a Fibonacci sequence that sits behind
because it's spent a lot of time producing the most effective way, and it will continue doing that based on the environment that it's in.
Yeah, I say to people.
Look at and be, oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
It's evolved
And
to get that way.
isn't it more
So
beautiful
can
that it's
get the
evolved
most
to get
out
that
of
way?
it live.
Isn't it more beautiful seeing something and going, there's millions of years of evolution that have gone into producing this thing in my hand?
I think it robs, for me anyway, as a former atheist, an evolutionist. I think what it did was it robbed me of the sense of the divine, the sense of there being something more purposeful about this life, rather than it being simply, oh well, give it billions of years and these beautiful, well-created human creatures would come to walk, and not only that, have a consciousness that belies or is seemingly above all other things that are going on here. So it's that consciousness that I'm trying to talk to and say that actually you come from something or belong to something so much more great than that.
Isn't that a bit selfish?
Well, because we're all that.
No, to just assume that
there's no assumption. There is no assumption. Trust me, when
looking over us and we're part of this greater plan. And
there's no assumption. If I hadn't had the DMT experience, I probably wouldn't be standing here talking to you.
Right.
But for me, the DMT, as I said, I was 46. Think about it, 46 years old and telling people there's no God. Telling your dying mother you refuse to accept the idea of a God.
Right.
She's saying, please, whatever. That's how hardcore I was about it, right? Mm-hmm. So for me to go in 5 minutes, shit, I've had it all wrong. And not because I was stoned or something that I was out of. I've done acid and mushrooms and all that sort of stuff in my life, had psychedelic experience. This wasn't that. This was me leaving the material body and having an opportunity to just converse with something higher than this. And what I realized is that I was immersed in a place of total love. And I realized that we're all connected to this love. There is no separation between you and I. The separation has been built in here to keep us apart, to keep us, squabbling over whatever we're squabbling over.
But physics doesn't change that. Physics works within that parameter. You can say the atoms in my body really are no different to yours because most of them are carbon, and there's carbon all around us and all sorts of different things. And it's all basically the same stuff.
We're made of the same stuff.
At a small level. So I don't see why that they have to be.
Well, because, like they say in the biblical text that God created you in God's image. So actually, when you look in the mirror, you might be looking at God. For me, I say to people that the story of Jesus might be the story of you and you. That actually there's a Christ within each of us. And that this system is run by some darker entity that doesn't want us to ever find that light. Whether it means it's some kind of reincarnation or whatever, I don't know. But I will say that I think that humankind is at a low ebb. We're at war with each other in so many ways. Every place.
Before.
Well, you might.
Most of that is also a lot of that has to do with religion.
Is more or less war part of the conspiracy, the grand conspiracy?
War is a tool of control, but there's the war in the mind that is, for example, they did with the American kids. There's a nuclear test drill that every kid did in the 1950s and 60s. Once a week they had to get under their desk and pretend they were, going through an atom bomb attack. That's a war on the mind. The war on the young mind today is this one of scarcity. That there are too many humans, that you've got to stop using the resources that you're using, that you've got to cut back on all this sort of stuff, go without clean water, a whole bunch of things that are plaguing.
Clean water?
Well, they're making people drink bottled water, really, because people don't trust the tap water anymore. The tap water's been made foul.
So the fluoride in the water.
You're okay with fluoride in your water?
Well, no. Okay, so this is what I'm asking. How does that conspiracy theory connect in with this one?
Well, for me, I don't think it's a conspiracy. There's not a theory that they put fluoride in the water. That's that's a matter of.
Gland. Is that?
Well,
is that
no, but it's not a theory that they put fluoride in the water, right? They say, we put fluoride in the water to strengthen your teeth.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
But we find out that fluoride in the water can also cause fluorosis. But apparently, it can cake itself around the pineal gland. Yes, and dull the humans. In fact, they say that Hitler was using fluoride to keep the concentration camp people under control. They use fluoride. But we could debate about that, I suppose. But the point is that should you be having any fluoride in your water, if you need fluoride, you should be taking it through your digestion, through your food. So they use fluoride as rat poison as well, you know.
Yeah, in different concentrations.
Of course, and just we're not dying.
Yeah.
But the point is that it's a toxin.
Different concentrations of nitrogen will stop whether or not you're breathing.
Okay.
Right. Like there are concentrations to all the elements.
But if you were to discover that there was research that showed that fluoride is harmful to you,
right?
Would you think that it was reasonable to expect that government officials would take note of that and say, yes, we need to stop the fluoridation of the water?
It's never as simple as saying, is the fluoride in the water bad? Saying, what about the fluoride in the water is bad, if there's evidence for it, and then move on from there.
If there wasn't...
what's that chemical they were putting in stuff?
You're a chemist?
I do like chemistry.
You do chemistry? We had a pharmacist on tour with us in Italy when we went through the Italian leg, and he only sells non-fluoridated toothpaste because we know that this is harmful.
They were putting dihydrogen monoxide in all sorts of things.
Have you heard about that one?
Are you trying to take the piss?
No.
What's dihydrogen peroxide?
Monoxide.
Isn't that monoxide? What is the common word for that?
Putting it in all sorts of things, allegedly. But it had a bunch of scary facts associated with it.
Well, I mean, there's two schools of thought. You could either say that the food industry puts stuff into our food simply because it makes it last longer and makes it more profitable for them. That would be dihydrogen peroxide. What is the common name for that?
I don't know. I haven't done that much research.
Dihydrogen peroxide or monoxide?
Yeah, peroxide.
Oh, I don't know though. I don't know if there is a common name for dihydrogen peroxide.
I just know it as that. I didn't look too much into it.
Well, so food industry do one of two things. They're either trying to make the shelf life of their product or the flavor of it better. So they might cut corners or they might put something in it that's not necessarily that good for you. We know that refined sugar, just simply refined sugar, is actually quite harmful to the human system, and it might be behind a lot of why we have cancers in the water that we do today.
Why we have fluoride in our water.
But the point is that the food industry isn't going to tell us for profit reasons that they're making you sick. The same with the tobacco industry in the 50s. They didn't want people to know that you could get cancer.
Add shit into their food just to make you sick. Their food makes you sick enough,
Yeah.
rather than all this. Rather than
But why do we need their food?
Because living in a city, you don't have the means to produce it yourself.
Exactly. So we become
that's not a
dependent.
conspiracy. That's how cities work.
That's how it's
Farms
been.
feed
Yeah,
a high population density. There's no way Hong Kong is feeding all of its population on stuff that
from
they
local
grow
farms.
on site.
Yeah, from local farms. Yeah. But this is this is part of the sort of catch-22, and you could say, oh, this is just simply the nature of things, and yes, maybe it is. But the reality is that we live in cities, we eat processed foods. We're not with nature.
In Australia, the people that don't live in cities have a little plane that flies around as an ambulance, and many people die in those planes flying hours to the nearest hospital. That is not something that would happen if they were living in a city. It's like, yes, there are pros and yes, there are cons to living in a city.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't disagree with you on that.
I mean, it's always easier to find work in a city.
Yes.
To enter into the
rat race.
The rat race.
And that's what they want us to do, is be in the rat race and move away from nature. And of course, we live by our own choice. We have our own choice. And I used to choose the same thing. I work for the government in the UK, in London, and I spent my life, I'm 50 now, but I spent my life sort of heading in that direction. And now I realize that actually we have far better potentiality if we can head towards nature rather than more of this kind of mechanization and
but how are you going to get rid of mechanization?
It's not about getting rid of mechanization, but it's about applying it in a way that, if we've got mechanization, why can't we have bigger towns and smaller cities?
Yeah, okay. Well, then why is the global conspiracy? Why are they raising robot production? Because then that would be taking people out of the rat race.
Well, what's it going to do with those people? It's not going to return them to the towns, the villages, is it? It's going to make them do low-end jobs.
No, the low-end jobs are done by robots. So factory jobs.
Yeah.
Administration jobs, accounting jobs, banking jobs. Some of those are high-end jobs, of course, but the CEOs will always be people.
Yeah.
But robots will be doing the smaller stuff, and that's taking people out of the rat race on scales that people are worried about.
Well, I think that my view is that the economy is structured to draw people into the cities. It is not structured to encourage people back onto the farm. Farming subsidies, the nature of how we do the so-called global trade.
Via the people in the farms. That's how it works.
No, but how are we doing that? We're buying all of our food from third world countries, a lot of our food from third world countries. We're not encouraging people to stay on the land where they are. And then when we do go farming, we tend to do it in these mega farms nowadays where there's 10,000 head of cattle and they are trying to pump them full of GMO, full of steroids to make them grow faster.
I'm behind the agricultural industry. I'm just saying that there's a reason why there's cities and then there's huge farms. It's like they go hand in hand.
Yeah. But I would rather, if I were running this place, I would rather find ways to diminish our reliance on cities and increase the accessibility of the land. Remember what I said, each of us could have 20 acres if we just divided up Texas, let alone the rest of the world.
Quality land.
No, I accept that, but you're not accepting the point that Texas is a minuscule dot on the globe, or the so-called globe. So actually, if you spread us out, there's more than enough land for all the people. In fact, this is what you get from the flat earth, is you realize that actually this is a created environment. It's like a dome or a biosphere that has been created for the human species to enjoy, and there's more than enough land and more than enough resources.
It's not for us to enjoy. It's not ours.
No,
see, that's where I don't like this whole we are divine stuff.
Yeah.
Because then you get into this whole, we're the only animals like this, and we seem
we're
to
not
be
animals.
Smarter. Okay,
beings.
We're smarter than the rest, and this is ours, and we should enjoy it.
It's just plain,
that's what she meant when she said selfish.
What if I was to say to you that flat earthers care more about the husbandry
in the face of science, like evolution?
Well, remember, when we live in cities, we lose our touch with nature. So we don't actually care about nature that much. When you live in the land, you live with the land, you care very much for it.
Well,
so
you don't have the view that we are divine and we are not animals, we are not part of the whole ecosystem, then of course you're going to be detached by the land.
No, we are part of this system.
If you don't have that view, then you can go out and you can, you don't have to live out there. You can make day trips and you still get just as much out of
the premise that we own
it's just as beautiful, and you can actually connect rather than being like walking through it like you're a divine being, like you have no connection whatsoever. Where we actually have a lot more connection that you would ever believe.
My experience.
How do we work using bacteria? Are the bacteria divine as well?
Well, it's nature. It's all part of nature. I'm talking about your consciousness. The body that you inherit, this 666 meat suit. This carbon meat suit that you live in, is not what I'm talking to. I'm talking to something higher than that. Well, I think everything is connected and it has consciousness.
But if everything's connected, then so everything's connected, but we're not animals.
Right.
Yes, when we're not plants either, but everything's connected. We're not the bricks, but yes, we are a human, in an avatar, we call it a human avatar, but we have something much higher. And actually, in my experience, I think that humankind is more divided on so many different levels than it has ever been. And I think that
that's only because of technology. We couldn't tell before because there wasn't widespread communication across the globe.
What about like racial segregation or like borders that are drawn between lands so that they say
how many less genocides there are nowadays than there ever have been before?
No, you tell me.
There used to be a genocide every decade in almost every country. Now, obviously, there are genocides going on. There's I don't want to put a number. Far less than any other.
And
there's no religious wars. There's there's far less territorial wars. There are territorial wars, of course. It's not.
It may look bad, but that's just because
it is bad.
Blowing it up.
It looks bad because.
But you're not actually looking at it in a perspective.
Yeah, it's
like,
not. Yeah,
okay.
You feel it. Yeah, okay, it's bad, but it's not. In a lot of ways, it's far better than it has been.
As
Like murder
bad as it
rates.
seems.
Murder rates. The likelihood that you'll be killed by like violence, by a violent assault from another human being, has gone way down.
Depends on where you look. I guess it depends on the territory. I wouldn't want to debate you. Yeah, I wouldn't want to debate you on that. But I don't think. But they
on average.
But they never used to charge people income tax. 100 years ago they never charged people income tax, and then they went off to war with the world, and then all of a sudden the world had to borrow money. Countries had to borrow money from a central banking system. Now that central banking system demands repayment plus interest. So each of us. So each of us are paying income taxes now, which is a slave tax, 10, 20, 30%, maybe more, of your time is given up simply to pay back for the wars that the bankers funded.
And we make astronomically more than people of our social class did 300 years ago.
Well, it means
When you say make more,
have these beautiful buildings and they can be maintained.
well, people lived in these buildings back then, but we don't build on this grandeur today. And my father bought his first house in England in 1967 for £3,000. The house that I was renting up until 2 months ago when I had to give it up was £2,000 a month.
Sure.
So how is it my dad, for 1.5 months of my rent, could buy an entire house, and you think that we live better now? Because most youngsters of your age who go into the workplace are going to pay off a mortgage for 25, 30 years.
Do you like antibiotics?
There's no doubt
No.
we're not going to be
You don't like antibiotics?
No. I look to nature mostly to heal myself. I haven't been to a doctor in 7 years.
It is nature. Antibiotics.
Okay,
Penicillin.
okay, penicillin is fine, but antibiotics aren't just penicillin, are they? So, but
Maybe some synthetic ones.
I think. What about chemotherapy, for example? That's a terrible
Saved my
treatment.
mother.
Well, there's a lot of people die from chemo.
You can argue that other things could have, sure, but that worked for her.
Okay, because when you get
does it necessarily look good on paper? No, of course not. The only reason chemotherapy works is because it's slightly worse for cancer cells than it is for our cells. It's not a good method, but it is the best one we've got, although you'll tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, back 100 years ago, they knew that there was a bunch of different things, even household kind of products that you can use to kind of kill some cancers. But cannabis is one of the most well-known ones. A friend of mine, the chemist I was talking about just now, he's actually healed people who have gone. He's got the medical report from them with the cancer, and then after the oil treatment, the cannabis oil treatment, that it's gone away.
If my mother could have been treated with cannabis oil rather than chemotherapy, I would have preferred that any day of the week.
So what if we knew 100 years ago? Okay, let's not get.
You can cure cancer with a diet.
Hold on.
It doesn't cure everything.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you. But what if we knew 100 years ago that cannabis oil could cure cancer, and it does cure cancers? Now we know this is a matter of fact. So let me finish my point, because I know you're trying to think about something other than what I'm offering you. So I'm offering you this idea that our governments, our medical establishment knew they had a cure for cancer, but they buried it on purpose. How could they not have done otherwise? Because to spend all these billions of pounds and dollars and so on, and these charities all going around collecting all of this money, and none of them, when I approach them, will say, we can talk to you about cancer. Because about cannabis and cancer, because they cannot accept it.
Of course, no one wants to talk to flat earthers about cannabis.
No, this is before. This is not about that. Right, well, this is about a serious conversation about how our medical profession can be misled by money.
I'm not going to defend the pharmaceutical industry either.
No, it's not. It's indefensible, and it's not even the pharmaceutical industry so much as because it's like the preachers. They don't know that they're preaching some stuff that's mumbo jumbo. They truly believe that, and the same with the pharmacists who are pushing out fluoride and other medicines.
It doesn't suggest that this is true.
Okay.
And I know we got off on a tangent.
No, I know that. I accept that.
The whole grand conspiracy.
Yeah, the pharmacy conspiracy doesn't mean that the Earth is flat. I agree with you. But I knew about the pharmacy conspiracy before I knew about the flat Earth. I knew about the 9/11 conspiracy before I knew about flat Earth.
Sure.
And that a lot of my thoughts or my history has been engineered for me to believe a certain thing about certain people. When I was in South Africa, it wanted me to believe a certain thing about black people, right? So that's just engineering. We've all been engineered. Now, the globe for me is an important lie because it shows the magnitude of the power of the system that is sitting above us or wants to control us.
If there's a flat Earth. If not,
Yeah.
then it's just a bunch of scientists telling people about the
Yeah.
world that they
Yeah. So, all ancient cultures and the people who built these staggering buildings thought that the earth was flat. It was only in the last 400 or 500 years that this globe idea started coming to the fore. In fact,
Because it wasn't illegal to
You can get the circumference. You can get the circumference of the Earth with the measurements of the pyramids.
yeah. And the pyramids have been aligned to Orion's belt since they were built.
Right.
So if we live in a violent explosion,
Or are they
a
aligned
big bang.
to Orion's belt now, and you're saying that the sky doesn't move because the sky does move?
No.
Like the equinox of the precession.
We know about the precession of the equinox, which is a 24,000 year cycle. We know of this, but that's another question you've got to ask yourself. How do we know a 24,000 year cycle when we've only been smart for the last few hundred years?
Because you extrapolate the data that you receive.
Okay, so now in 24,000 years, what they're saying is that the same star pattern will come around to us. Exactly the same formation will come around. Yeah, this is what it says. Basically, this is what it says. But over time, over the course of the year, you can plot the Orion's belt onto the pyramids of Giza. So it's a matter of fact that these were built in alignment to the stars, and today they're still in alignment with the stars. And what I would ask you to think about is parallax. How if these stars are trillions of miles away from each other, the Orion's belt, and they're not even close to each other. They're meant to be, separated by millions of miles. If they're so far apart and they're all inside of this Big Bang, which is moving at millions of miles per hour in totality and in all chaotic different directions, there's no way those 3 billiard balls would stay. The parallax of them would have changed, or they would have shifted in alignment to each other.
If there was a Big Bang.
Well, I'm saying that if we're in a
the Big Bang. Like those stars weren't like ready to just fly out.
No.
In the Big Bang.
No, but when
they were formed far later.
Yeah, okay, but when the pyramids were built, then they built them aligning them to those stars. Right. Now, mainstream science says 6,000 years, some say 20,000 years that the pyramids are old. But the point is that even if it was just a year ago that you'd have lined up 3 things that are all moving at millions of miles an hour, there's no way that you would get them into the same alignment, let alone that seasonally and annually we will get the similar or same sky formation. And the constellations, they never change position relative to each other within those stars. Parallax does not happen to them. It's like they're locked in place, which makes a lot more sense when you look at a flat Earth idea of there being some sort of fixed route.
Because you're not thinking about the scales here.
I think about it like this. I think that if you had to take a piece of cardboard and prick holes through it, and then move the light above those holes, you would see the stars hold this and move the cardboard at the same time. You would see the stars moving around your space above your head or whatever, but they would hold their alignment, and that's exactly what we see.
It's not reflected light.
Not reflected light.
That's insinuating that there's a light shining behind it, and that's what moves. So that's when we can see it. Screen.
Yeah.
I think that it's I'm only theorizing now.
If you think it's a screen, then obviously that distortion thing doesn't work either.
Which distortion?
Well, you got to keep bringing up new.
What we see, here's the thing that what we often hear from people from the southern hemisphere is that they see the moon upside down to the people in the northern hemisphere, which is given as a reason for a proof that we must be living on a globe, right? But I offer you this, that if my hand was the moon and I was moving it above our heads, and you had to look up at my hand now, and I had to look up my hand, you're in the southern hemisphere, I'm in the northern hemisphere, what part of my hand would you see first? You'd see my baby finger first, and I'd see my thumb first.
Like that, or like that.
I don't know. I can theorize with you, but you've got to get past the. I say it's moving above our heads.
If the horizon goes down, then it's supposedly, theoretically, got to go
On that, but we don't say it's setting. All right. If you watch a jumbo jet, a high aircraft at 30,000 feet flying towards you, have you had experience of that? As it flies towards you, it sort of lifts up. It rises. Yeah, and then as it gets to the zenith above your head, it's a plane flying at 30,000 feet cruising altitude over your head.
So does it come out
as
of
it
the
comes, let me think about this. Think about it. You're flying from Australia to Europe, right?
Yeah.
But someone halfway on that flight looks up and sees your plane. To them, off in the distance, as you approach, your plane is almost touching the horizon. And then as it approaches them, it goes higher and higher and higher, seems to go higher, but it's actually still cruising, but it's perspective that has a lift, or angular resolution that has it lift, and now it's at its highest point, and as it goes away from me, so it'll track downwards and appear to set, but it's still doing 35,000 feet.
But where does it
Do you get? Did that make sense?
Because it's a sphere. It's like if you're trying to convince me that it was a sphere.
Where does
you
it
would
come
say,
from?
Look,
And where does
planes come up, they go over us, and then
Yeah.
they set, but they maintain the same. They maintain
In the same altitude, yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how
You can't do it if it's flat.
Right. So the plane is going like this as it flies. It's following the sphere. Is that what you think?
Yeah, but relative to where you're standing, it
Okay.
looks like it's going over. This is an old trope of this conversation. Is that obviously to our perspective, it looks flat.
To our perspective, the world, of course, well, it does look flat, but that plane, the point I'm trying to make is getting back to the sun and rising, is that the plane looks like it's rising as it comes towards you and looks like it's setting as it leaves you. So I say that the sun is probably remaining at the same altitude, but as it approaches in the distance, it rises over the mountains and then highest point at the zenith above you at midday, thereabouts, and then off it goes into the distance and it appears to set. Now, if you go up to, say, back in a plane, at sunset, and I've done this myself, jumped in a plane in Dubai at sunset, sun's gone down, I get to 30,000 feet and boom, there's the sun again. Now, I can see that myself, that's my own experience. Not only that, I've taken a spirit level onto a plane and zeroed the spirit level on the ground, and then as we're flying, the entire time I'm in cruising, we're at 1.5 degrees nose up. The plane is holding its nose up in order to maintain a level pitch or a level height above the flat earth beneath it. The moment we want to start to, let me finish. If the moment we want to descend the plane, we pull the nose down into a 0.5 degree, not even a zero. It only hit zero again when I got to the ground and settled. If we were going over a curve, my spirit level should acknowledge or recognize that I was off the level.
Dialed in to our, like, if you flew that plane to the moon, which of course you can't.
Yeah.
It's scaled in for the dimensions that it has to work within,
Yeah.
i.e., flying over the surface of an object.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's zeroed in with altitude with that in mind.
Yeah.
Right. It's different with rockets or anything that has to go past the screen. You know.
Do you know how a gyroscope works?
Yeah.
So a gyroscope is set up to spin on a level, and it will maintain that rigidity in space, won't it? The spindle will retain, or the gyroscope will retain that rigidity in space. Until you tip it, it will always stay on that original, no matter what you do with the gyroscope, yeah? It'll stay on that original rigid. So that's what we're saying is the simple argument for, or evidence that the planes are not going over some kind of level or also over some kind of curve, but they're flying over a level. Why? Because if it wasn't true, the gyroscope would continually tilt back to maintain the original starting point level, and it wouldn't be recalibrating itself to apply to some sort of attraction to the center mass. That's not how they work.
It would work if you had one to the scale of what our Earth temperature is.
No, I'm not sure that's what they're saying. I think they do by realigning in, like.
See, because if we had to put one,
what do you call context of the magnetic? I mean the gravitational.
Well, we've said, I think some guys have set one up to run for 24 hours, and they say that if that were true, then they would be able to measure the Earth turning, because if you set it up in this rigidity, then as the Earth turned, rolled around its 24-hour cycle, then that would reflect in the original origination of the level that we started from.
No, it wouldn't, because the force doesn't change.
So you say there's a force acting on the gyroscope, so that's going to hold it. So as I move around the globe, it's going to naturally realign itself. Is that what you're suggesting? Because there's a lot of airline pilots who would disagree with you.
I've never done it.
There's a lot of airline pilots who accept now that they are flying over a level plane, and actually when you fly up to 30, as you go through the cloud bank, and when you return home or whenever you fly next, as you go through the cloud bank, you will notice that the cloud bank is super level. They tell you, or you were trying to intimate just now, that we can see the clouds going down off the horizon because the Earth is curved. That's not what you see when you go up and you get a much longer range of view. You can see for 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, and across what you see is like a tabletop of cloud.
Because we're so small in the Earth.
Then I hear that too. But you were saying that you could see the effect of that curvature from a plane just 10 miles away as it was approaching you. So and people say at 20 miles you can see the clouds going around the curve or the horizon or whatever, and they say mainstream science says that 5 miles or 4 miles is as far as you can see over the curve of the ball if you're standing on a beach.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see like a hard, definite line that you would say, oh, that's the
curvature.
You couldn't see it, no matter like.
I wouldn't think that you could see it because it's all just.
Your eyes can't
clouds.
even see that far.
Your eyes can't see that far, yeah. So we've taken a powerful camera and had the world record photograph 250 miles over water. The island that's in the photograph, the subject of the photograph, should be 3 miles underneath the curve of the water. That's what they tell us. Another guy with a powerful infrared camera at 30,000 feet in a plane, he can see mountains at 500 miles away. These should be under 10 miles of Earth curve or 15 kilometers of Earth curve. This is no way you should be able to see these things. No, I mean, you think about it, when you start to do the maths, it's like we can see distances so far that make no sense based on the maths that we've been given for the globe of 24,900 in circumference. You mean the perspective of the viewer? Yes, the higher you go, the further you can see.
Yeah, I should hope that those were all done at the same altitude relative to sea level.
Yeah.
But
But think about it.
You'd have to find a plane big enough for it to be all level.
What you'd need is like a rocket to go up and take a unstitched photo of the Earth.
Yeah, you think NASA would have done that for us by now? Or they would have even put a...
I've seen one. Of course, it's not real.
Well, it's possible that these things can be done on a computer projection, right? So it is possible
but not
for
in
us...
the 60s.
Okay, so
it's from the moon landings.
So they gave us a photo in 1972 of the moon, the Earth from space, and then NASA never gave us another photo of Earth for 40 years. Well, you would have thought that if they had the technology to do that, then they would have been doing that all the time. In fact, have you thought about this? When it comes to the moon landings, why didn't they take a video camera up onto the moon and point it at the Earth and film the Earth moving?
Because they weren't on there for that long. They were only down there for like a day, like a work day, 6 hours or something.
Okay.
I don't know how long the orbiter had to go around.
Are you 6 times in 3 years?
I mean on the surface at any one point.
Yeah. But if I was to take a video camera up and just set it up, that wouldn't take very long to do, wouldn't you think? Just to put a video camera there and just let it run for a half an hour while I'm going about my business. Here you go, I'll put a camera up, film the Earth spinning, because this will put it
up, though?
Do you know how big the cameras were back then? They weren't like, it's not like putting your phone down and just letting it sit there. They're like big equipment, heavy equipment. And
you'd have
heavy
to
and big
secure it to
cameras
the
like
window.
that aren't priority on scientific expeditions.
But a dune buggy is? They took a dune buggy up onto the moon, but not a camera. You know, you've got to be making excuses. You can continually make excuses for NASA. They can take a golf club up, but this one thing that would answer this question once and for all: film the Earth turning, floating in space, which we say is impossible. Yeah. Why don't you show that? And they've never been able to show that. I can look you straight in the eyes, my friend, and tell you that they cannot show you that. The best that they've done 2 years ago, they came out with an Earth. 25-hour Earth turn, and when we analyzed that, we found that the clouds are not moving at all in those 24 hours or 25 hours. So what they've done is they've given us some kind of computer projection. So no, when they landed a probe on an asteroid, I believed that they could do that.
Why do the clouds have to move in 24 hours?
You don't think clouds move in 24 hours?
No, of course clouds do move in 24 hours.
There you go, that's the answer.
Not under every single circumstance.
Right. So you think that it's possible that for 24 hours the entirety of all the bodies of clouds on
I
Earth.
haven't seen the photo that you're.
You've got to know that you're sounding to me and to people listening like you're just making excuses for your belief system.
I haven't given you any permission to use the footage.
That's all right. It's live, so it's live. It's too late for that. Oh, okay. It's too late for that. No, they're watching it now. I think 50 people at the moment, but a few more hundreds will watch it later today, I'm sure. But you know, I say to you that look, took me months. Once I first heard it took me months to kind of go, it's possible. But then I'd already.
About a month ago.
I've
known about Flat Earth for a long time. I've looked into it. Like I've listened. I've done things like
heard the discussion.
This isn't the first Flat Earth.
Yeah. But I used to believe I used to trust the authorities that sit above us. I used to trust in the basis of government.
What comes first? Lack of trust of authority or conspiracy theories?
For me, it was that things started to fall apart. With 9/11, when I started looking into 9/11 properly, then my trust in the systems of information giving that I used to believe in, the BBC and all of these, my trust in that was robbed. And my belief that...
So then, therefore, this is true?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, this has been a progression for me, but it was easier for me to step into looking honestly rather than, laughing at all the debunking videos that are out there. But it was easier for me to step into this seriously and give it my full attention for a few months where, 15 hours a day, all I studied was the science that I'd been taught and the probability that we could show that we live on an unmoving earth. And it's all the things like Coriolis force and all those things that you get taught are I used to believe like, Australia, the water goes one way down the sink, Europe goes another way down the sink. I used to accept all of those things as my evidence that I lived on a globe. And NASA, of course, I believe we went to the moon. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Watch that documentary, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, and you will see NASA's own footage show themselves up to be faking the moon.
I'm not going to stand here and say that I don't think NASA faked any footage. But that doesn't mean that I don't think they will.
Okay. Well, it's great to have an inquiring mind. I'm not here to convert you. I'm here to alert you that there is something serious going on in this world that matters to you.
I can see.
I think there's more issues rather than debating whether the Earth is
more immediate issues such as?
Other parts of